The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, what up? This is Rocky Asuka Romero of Chaos, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be covering all the latest news, answering your questions, and doing week 2 of the final countdown. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details. All right, young boy, we got a lot of news, a lot of questions, but first up from our good old pal Maserati, he wants to know how the two of us are holding up. That's most important to him.
I'm glad that our well-being is of such significant concern to Greg. Cool. So I guess I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing all right as well.
I mean, I don't know. Life is obviously different for everybody right now. Things are kind of cool. Like, for me, and I think I might have said this on the show before, but like for me, I'm very introverted. So like staying inside this often is kind of how I normally am anyways. But at the same time, like I'm not going stir crazy or anything like that, but some things kind of get a little monotonous,
Yeah.
Like I would like, my routines are, I think probably for like most people it's the same thing. Like my routines are pretty much the same most days, and there's not a lot of things changing it up, and so that can be just a little boring, I guess you would say.
yeah for me, like Monday through Friday afternoon is pretty much the same. Still working, still kind of doing the same stuff, working at home now, walking the dog, all that good stuff. But then like Friday night and Saturday, I'm just like, I wish there was FIP. I wish there was a Largo Loop show. Like, I wish the boys can come over and we could watch like old wrestling and do our commentary over it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm ready for this to be over. Like, I'm ready for everyone not to have to be afraid when they go out and everything like that. As the thing kind of continues on, it's continuously affecting people. I don't know anyone firsthand that has it, but I know multiple people now at this point that have loved ones and family members and friends who've been affected, or unfortunately even people have passed away due to the circumstances right now. So it's still a pretty serious thing. Fortunately, here in Florida, we're not really a political podcast, but Governor Ron DeSantis thinks it's a good idea to open these beaches up, so that's cool.
Yeah, Jacksonville Beach opened up a couple days ago, and it was packed as soon as they opened it up. So,
yeah, it's freaking crazy. Like stuff is starting to hit the fan here in Florida. Like, yeah, a lot of the projections show that it's going to be worse here than other parts of the country, just based on the bad decisions that are being made as far as policies and everything. Obviously, look at what kind of businesses are being deemed essential. So, I'm talking about it like people don't know. Like, obviously, everyone kind of knows what's going on in this state. Like, it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest.
Yeah, and to kind of segue into the news, we had
no. Before we go into the news, we got to talk about something. That is, well, two things. There are two things I want to bring up.
You always kill my segues.
No, I got to kill your segue, bro. Because you want to go into the actual news, and we got to talk about something that's two things that are bigger than the news, okay?
Okay.
Number one, how was Bloodsport? You finally freaking watched Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was awesome. I know you had already shown me like one of the ending scenes like a while ago, but yeah, I watched the whole movie. It was awesome. Lots of V triggers, juice effects. It was a good movie.
What would you rate that movie?
I don't know, maybe somewhere like 4.25, 4.5, somewhere in that range.
All right, that's gonna take us to the next thing we need to talk about. So, it's been a long time since we talked about Being the Elite on this show, but the 200th episode dropped today. We both watched it. Jeremy, tell the listeners what you rated that Being the Elite match.
So I rated Matt Jackson versus Nick Jackson. Falls count anywhere. 4.75.
Oh my God. All right. I'm not even going to comment on it. I just want everyone to know. I want the world to know about this.
Yeah, it was awesome. Blew Ciampa and Gargano and Edge and Orton out the water. Had those matches were like god awful though. Exactly, and they were supposed to be the same concept. We had weeks of build here. They were building this match for several weeks. Several bumps, several suplexes on the hard grass, on the hard gym floor. Lots of high spots. You even had some magic from Nick Jackson. Pulled out some old school to the barbershop spot there. Lots of great stuff, great action. I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. It was awesome.
God, I mean, it's not a 4 3/4 star match though. Like, it's not. Also, I'll tell you this: as far as I enjoyed it, I thought it was very funny. I thought it was very interesting, but it's not better than the Graveyard match. As far as cinematic presentations, it's just not arguably.
Well, this wasn't really cinematic though. They were just they were having a Falls Count Anywhere match. Those guys were filming a Graveyard movie.
Nah, that was not the same. They did heavy editing to this thing. They had multiple camera angles. This was that was cinematic.
No,
it was it was the same thing as Gargano and Edge and Orton and all that.
But much high class, top.
Oh my God! There was a part of me that's I don't know, if I would show this to a non-wrestling fan, because part of it is it was really funny and entertaining, but then there's a part of it that was this kind of embarrassing. So I don't know, I would be really torn.
No, you know what? You know what's embarrassing is every time I go to my parents' house and they're my dad's oh, I was watching that Friday Night SmackDown, and I see this thing going on with The Fiend or XYZ character, and I'm just I don't watch that crap, Dad. Do not talk to me about this.
I mean, yes, one doesn't denote the other, but some of the stuff that they did in that match. Now, keep in mind, I don't think that match is actually intended to be taken seriously, but a lot of it was really shitty. It actually was a lot of the stuff that people complain about when it comes to Young Bucks, their offense looks really weak. They don't it's hard to take them seriously. Like they couldn't actually hurt someone, and like it's very obvious. Like that stuff was all very apparent in that match. Like as far as like their offense, which I'm not like harping on it too much because I'm like, it's a funny match. It's not to be taken seriously, but like I don't know if they should have done that because I think it exposes not the business but them. It exposes all the things that people talk about negatively about them. It's like very glaring in that presentation.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I don't know. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. So if you haven't seen it yet, check out BT 200 on the BT YouTube channel.
I will say I found it more entertaining than most empty arena wrestling that we've seen since this thing started. So
it's the match of the quarantine, hand down.
I don't know about that.
All right, so let's talk some New Japan Pro Wrestling. So on last Wednesday, April 15th, led by Bushiroad Company Director Takaki Kadani, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and NJPW Chairman Naoki Tsukubayashi joined representatives from Stardom Pro Wrestling Noah, All Japan Pro Wrestling, DDT Pro Wrestling, Diana, and Tokyo Joe Pro Wrestling at the Tokyo Lawyers House Assembly Hall. Together, the company representatives were present to consult with the Japanese Minister of Education, Culture, Science, and Technology, and former NJPW wrestler, and somebody we've been talking about in the final countdown, Hiroshi Hase, to discuss how the COVID-19 crisis has affected the pro wrestling industry in Japan. We have this quote here from Hiroshi Tanahashi. He says, "While events have been canceled, our wrestlers have been training diligently and maintaining their focus for an eventual return. Yes, not being able to wrestle does make a lot of us concerned for our livelihoods, but in the world of sports, be the baseball, soccer, or sumo, I feel that professional wrestling should be the anchor. I think it should be acceptable for professional wrestling to be the last sport to return to full activity. I want people to know that when professional wrestling is back, then and only then, it means truly that Japanese entertainment has properly recovered."
Interesting. I mean, what are your thoughts here?
So yeah, it's very interesting. We get a lot of questions and a lot of comments on, will it ever be possible for all these, Puro promotions to work together and possibly do some kind of super show? And what's the kind of communication between these guys? And we're seeing kind of a united front here with, major representatives from all these top Joshi and Puro companies in Japan coming together and expressing concerns of COVID. So it's very interesting to see all the companies kind of coming together and being here and, meeting with former wrestler now in the government, Hiroshi Hase. So just all together a very interesting situation. And it just kind of goes along with the New Japan side with Tanahashi's comments that it seems like they're going to wait until they can get the full clear go to bring back New Japan.
Yeah, I also find it to be very interesting. There have been I wouldn't say speculations, but like kind of murmuring amongst like the Puroresu intelligentsia, the fan base of like, once this does happen, is there a chance for these companies to work together? You've had comments from Okada in the past, things of that nature, and just the fact that they all were in the same place, kind of striving for the same thing is kind of a good sign towards that. But in terms of something that's a little more real world based, I think it's pretty incredible that you have all these different entities joining together to not just rally for their own individual businesses, but for the wrestlers that are involved. Basically, they were kind of like going to the government, and yes, they were sort of like lobbying that they be allowed to wrestle, provided the conditions were right. Like they did say, like they want the government to supply them with testing means and with safety measures and guidelines, but they also lobbied that the companies as well as the wrestlers be compensated or at least consider compensating them during this time while they were out. So, it's one thing when you have New Japan doing something like that, which kind of makes sense because they're a larger company, but they're not just doing it on their behalf. They're going out and joining forces with like Noah. It's like you've got like Cyber Agent and Bushiroad working together, major competitors in the same marketplace working together. All Japan, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Diana, all that. Like, that's something that I don't think you would ever really, unless something really changed, you would never see WWE or, AEW meeting up and doing something like this in the current climate, going to Congress or going to Donald Trump or whatever,
All right.
So I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting. From what I gathered about this whole thing, it's not just so much about like the companies looking out for themselves, but looking out for each other and also looking out for the performers who are involved as well, which is, it's a completely different narrative in the East than what you're seeing here in the West.
Yeah. Very interesting situation there. And then we also had a report here from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer that NJPW is taking care of talent during this coronavirus pandemic. NJPW will continue to pay all staff members and those under contract full salary and benefits. New Japan taking care of the guys during this thing.
Yeah, they're not, bloodletting and firing a tenth of the workforce, which is crazy. And hats off to people in the wrestling industry who are doing this. I don't know, how viable for a business decision that really even is for some of these companies. But I mean, we have reports that like MLW is doing the same thing, Impact's doing the same thing, Ring of Honor is doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
AEW, New Japan. So I mean, that's a great thing to hear. It's just unfortunate that the industry leaders, the one company, is not even taking in consideration. They're taking in consideration their board and their investors and their trustees as opposed to their talent or their employees.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them in a little bit here. But also up on NJPW1972.com.
One thing I did want to say before we move on, I actually have seen some other New Japan wrestlers kind of speaking out. I think like Nagata was one of them, who it seems like they're like just wanting to wrestle regardless.
Yeah, Nagata tweeted something about like, I forgot exactly what the tweet was, but pretty much essentially like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to wrestle.
And then it's interesting. You have Tanahashi over here like talking about like them being the last thing to go. I find like Tanahashi's comments admirable, but not actually that logical, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know why, and it's a cool like attitude take, but like, why should wrestling be the last thing? Like, why does wrestling have to be the last thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like the wise and conscious thing to say is like, when it's safe, then wrestling should come back. When science and medical examiners and reports say that it's safe to come back, then we'll come back. But like, I don't want everything else to come back and then New Japan. Like, that's stupid. Like, why? That's like you're the dude who like opens the door for you're out with like 30 people and you open the door and then you just keep holding the door for everybody, and like you were the first one at the door but you let everyone else out, and now you're like the last one and you get the crappy seat when you get in. Like, nah, dude.
Yeah, interesting.
Open the door for like 2 or 3 people and then sneak your way in and let someone else do it.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Oh man. So also up on NJPW1972.com, there's a second part of Desperado's interview, and there's also part 1 of a Shingo Q&A interview where fans got to submit questions and Shingo answers them. Also up, they have a new episode of The Recount looking at NJPW's most vicious outsiders. In this episode, they highlight some of the recent outsiders being Jon Moxley and Kenta.
I watched this. I had an interesting thought. They didn't mention Jericho.
Yeah, because I don't know. I guess because they're maybe only looking back within the last year or so, I guess. And Jericho.
No, they started with AJ.
Yeah, that's right. They did start with AJ.
I mean, they did a recount, about the Painmaker and his history and everything. So it might not mean anything, but I just thought it was kind of weird because almost all of those different they've done recounts talking about all these different guys at different points, and they're kind of recycling a lot of the same like footage.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was weird. It's like one of the most notable outsiders who attacks people, obviously, is Jericho. They didn't even bring him up in this recount. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because, they went from, like, AJ and, like, jumped from AJ to, like, Kenta and then Moxley. So, yeah, very interesting. Also, we have David Finley, who's on the NJPW English podcast this week. Check that out with our friend Chris Charlton. And then last thing here in the New Japan side of things. So I saw some tweets about this. I've seen some comments on Reddit. But apparently, Miho Abe has announced that she is no longer with Taichi and is now with Taguchi. Yeah. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw it, but I couldn't find any like really, truly reliable source for it. I did go look at her pages, like because it looks like she tweeted it out, and I saw people like translating it, but it was hard for me to get like a real grasp on what they were talking about. I'm like, is this a shoot? Is this storyline? Is this like gonna be held up by the company? I really just don't know.
Yeah, I was also trying to get some translations on the tweets, and I couldn't really, the translations were kind of weird. I couldn't really make out exactly what they were talking about, what exactly was going on. But, yeah.
Right.
It'd be very interesting to see where this whole Miho Abe, Taguchi, Taichi love triangle goes down the line.
I mean, we've had interactions in the past where, Miho Abe has been, a fixture of infatuation for, the pervert Taguchi. I don't know. Maybe she's, gonna show up as his assistant coach with a play-by-play scoreboard and wearing an assistant coach band when she comes back.
Or maybe she'll be his cheerleader since he's a coach.
I thought I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to be demeaning, and then you took it there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's for real or not. I didn't necessarily. I never actually thought in real life that her and Taichi were together. I'm not saying that I think they are, but what if they were? I don't know. I guess we need to ask someone who knows more about this stuff,
Yeah, we need to hit somebody up that can give us some more information on this.
Because what if in New Japan your valet is your real life shoot girlfriend and she really left Taichi for Taguchi?
I mean, Peter's with Yujiro on screen, but it's with Fale, so
yeah, and with Fale's permission. That's his homeboy.
So yeah. On the other news, so last Wednesday was also Black Wednesday in.
Why does the guy be black? That's fucked up.
For the WWE, they released and furloughed several wrestlers, talent, producers, employees. A lot of interesting names. Obviously, two of those names, former NJPW stars, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Carl Anderson did post a video on his Twitter teasing a return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and also kind of coming out of the releases and the furloughs and WWE trying to make their numbers look good for their investors and the stock market. It seems like NXT Japan is off the table right now with Kendo Kashin being released, and there's been there's a Tokyo Sports article talking about it, and people kind of close on the inside who are kind of working on that project have been saying, yeah, it's off the table for right now.
Yeah, he actually had some comments today saying that because he came back to the States and then got let go, he's now stuck in America and is having trouble getting home.
Wow. And
it's not the first story like that we've heard. We've heard stories about Kurt Hawkins, him and his family. His wife's pregnant, so neither of them have an income right now. Obviously, Mike and Maria Kanellis not working. Obviously, both let go. Dan Matha, who was a Largo Loop talent that we're very familiar with and have watched for years. Most listeners are probably not as familiar with him, but dude was in a life-threatening car accident before he got let go. Right. Almost died, was literally ejected from the car. Company knew about it and then called him and let him go. And he's still I don't know if he's still in the hospital or last I checked he was.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. No Way Jose, they had him traveling to Raw, and as he's on the way to Raw, he's getting a text letting him know that he's released.
Yeah, and not only that, like they had like Sarah Logan working, so like they're like, hey, come work these live shows, endanger yourself. Oh, by the way, 2 days later, you're fired. It's like, what the fuck is wrong
And they
with this
got
company?
Drake Maverick, who they released, and he's still competing in the NXT Cruiserweight, the interim Cruiserweight tournament that they're doing. So yeah.
I'll say this. If you want some good insight as to what's going on, I would highly recommend you check out the WrestleNomics podcast, part of the Voice of Wrestling podcast network. But, one thing I will say is, like, they're paying out dividends to their – after this, they, like – the earnings report is coming up Thursday, so we'll know more by that point. But, like, from what I understand right now is that they're paying out dividends for this quarter to their investors. The dividends that they're going to be paying out would have taken care of the salary of all these employees that got let go for 4 years. And instead they're cutting all these – and Vince is making some, like, millions and millions and millions of dollars off of this move and off the bankruptcy that they filed for XFL. So, like, he's winning in this situation.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like, it's it's a company – that is showing that not only do they not care about the health or well-being of their performers, until just the other day, they were literally like, yeah, you guys are going to be traveling, coming in and working every single, every single taping. Now it's only every 2 weeks, but, it takes 2 weeks to quarantine to go see your family if you have a family and things of that nature if you're traveling. So you're going to expose yourself hypothetically, possibly, and then you still can't go see your family after this. Nobody knows how long this is going to go on. So, like, this is a company that's like, we don't give a fuck about you or your family life. You're a pawn. We'll, whatever happens. And then, once you're expendable, literally, we're going to get rid of all of you. Like, they hoarded all this talent for years and years. Didn't want to let them go. Now they're going to let them go because it benefits the company. And not only that, they know that there's nowhere that these people can go because it's not a buyer's market right now.
Right. Nobody's running. Nobody can go to New Japan, Ring of Honor, MLW, Impact, anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Let's say tomorrow, we talked about the Revival. Let's say tomorrow the Revival announces, like, we've signed with New Japan. Cool. When's that happening?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bad situation. Like, it's actually really repulsive and repugnant. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll just say this, Jeremy, like, obviously I don't really keep up with WWE as a product, and, that when did that start for me?
When you stopped following WWE? I don't know, like 3-4 years ago?
But do you remember the specific event that happened?
Oh, yeah, WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans.
Right, and what was it specifically that made me stop following them?
The AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura match, how horrible it was, and the horrible heel turn.
You would think that that's what it was.
Oh no, it was the Roman getting his head split with Brock.
It's that they let their star performer go out there and get split to the white meat by a professional MMA fighter, and then they jobbed him, and they literally put his life in danger for no fucking reason. Like, literally no fucking reason. Well, because it's part of a contract negotiation with the prima donna like Brock. So. I've been, like, we always hear it, Social Suplex, we always talk about being ahead. I've been ahead. I've known this company didn't give a fuck about these guys for a long time,
Yeah. I mean, you can go back as far as Vince Jr.'s been in control. You can find several instances of him not caring about performers and kind of putting the company ahead of those people, so.
Oh, and boy, oh boy, that Dark Side of the Ring documentary.
Which one?
The one from last week, the Nancy Argentina one.
Snuka, yeah.
Bad week for Vince.
Yeah.
Aside from all the money he's paying himself. Bad week for him.
So we got some questions kind of related to this topic. So first from Reddit user Savage Koala 93. With Carl Anderson on the market, does he go to AEW, return with Gallows, or return with a new partner? Carl has had multiple partners in his NJPW career, and I think replacing Gallows with Chase Owens would create a team with a far higher ceiling, match quality-wise, than Gallows and Anderson have ever had.
It's a great question. I think it would probably make the most sense for him to go back to working Japan. From what I mean, A, the money, B, the history, the relationships that he has with the performers here. Obviously, just a few weeks ago, Gallows, Anderson, and Rocky Romero start up the Talkin' Shop podcast again, which I thought was strange at the time. I was like, how are they allowed to do that?
Right. They were still under contract at that time.
And I think that's a clear indication of what would possibly happen. Plus, like, Bullet Club kind of hasn't felt like the Bullet Club in a long time, but Gallows and Anderson are like two of the founding guys that were, basically there from the very beginning. In fact, like, for a majority of its history, like, Carl Anderson was seen as like the de facto co-leader of the group. So I wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if he does go to AEW for all the same reasons that guys like, who am I thinking of? Murder Hawk Monster.
Oh, Lance Archer.
Yeah, like for the same reasons a guy like Lance Archer went. There's a lot of positives to doing that. And could he work the dual contract? Maybe. I don't know if he's a big enough star to like really warrant that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely, based on the teaser and, the Talkin' Shop podcast, it does seem like New Japan, he wants to go back there. But, yeah, I could easily see him going to AEW. I mean, he's friends with the Young Bucks, and, he had time with them in the Bullet Club. And I'm sure that, I know they're not really hiring much right now, but once things get back going, I'm sure they would love to have a guy like him. I'm sure the AEW fan base, that American Bullet Club fan base would eat up a Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows return. Teaming up with the Young Bucks or feuding with the Young Bucks in some kind of capacity there. So, yeah, there's a lot of options for Anderson and Gallows once things open back up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the real question is whether, they would be accepted back if they did come back. I mean.
Right. Because, we did hear, like, during Talk is Jericho with Gallows and Anderson, they talked about how Gato loved Carl Anderson and said that, this guy's going to be a star, so my next top guy. So obviously Gato had a lot of faith and trust in Carl Anderson, and you would see that in the way he was slotted in G1 tournaments and who he would beat in the good matches he would have with guys in those tournaments.
Yeah, guys like Tanahashi and, Nakamura went out of their way to make him look really good during his time there. I'm not saying he wasn't good, but, I mean, they gave him the Roman treatment, make him look strong. And they definitely did that. I wouldn't mind seeing them come back. I think that there's a lack of depth in the tag division, obviously. Although, at the same time, GOD is there, and they've kind of already filled that slot that they left behind. So I don't know about that. But, yeah, I mean, the team is interesting because it almost kind of feels like their credibility has been hurt a bit based on the way that they were slotted in WWE. But in that same respect, they were in WWE, so maybe that automatically makes them bigger stars right out the gate.
Yeah, the price has increased. They're WrestleMania 36 main eventers. So another question here from Reddit user psan91. From the wrestlers WWE recently released, who would you like to see in New Japan? I personally think Rusev would be a great fit for the Never division, as he could have awesome matches with the likes of Shingo and Ishii.
Yeah, I think Rusev would be a great fit for New Japan. He's one of the few guys that I think if he does continue to wrestle, based on Rusev wasn't an indie guy, really. Like, Rusev is one of the few very successful homegrown talents that WWE ever had. Why they got rid of him, I still don't know to this. I don't get it. I'll just be honest with you. I don't get it. Like, I don't know what the deal is. Wrestling's weird. Who knows?
Well, I think part of it is when they were picking people to release, they were releasing some people who were already unhappy and asking their release. And it seems like Rusev was one of those guys who was unhappy with his slot and was trying to get out.
Right, but it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy because every time they gave him something to do, he knocked it out of the park, got over. They didn't like it for whatever reason, and then they would, bury him again,
Right.
And it was like a revolving door. Like, this guy was put in failing positions like 3 or 4 times and turned chicken shit into chicken salad. So I understand the frustration. I think that Rusev is a star. I do. I think, he's a guy who literally, when he popped on the scene, I thought sucked. Literally, I was like, guy can't wrestle. I thought he was kind of like Ryback. I was like, guy can't wrestle. He's not that good. And I didn't like his gimmick. And then he got he got better in the ring. He had good matches. He got good on the mic. Every single crappy storyline they gave him, he made something out of it. Like, he just knocked it out of the park, like, consistently. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's like, Michael Elgin necessarily or anything like that, but he's a really good wrestler. We've never really seen him in other situations to see what he really even can do, because how often was he given main event slotting in all the time he was there?
Yeah, not often.
So, I mean, but he is someone who I don't see him working. I don't see him like doing the Cody Rhodes and going on the indie scene. I don't see him working, Progress or, the UK indie scene. Like, he's not going to show up in, in like PWG and work at like the Globe Theater. Like, this is a guy who's only going to work either AEW or New Japan, because those are the two companies that can afford to pay him what he probably feels he's worth or entitled to. So those are only two companies I can actually literally see him showing up in. And yeah. I think it would be cool. There's not too many guys that are from WWE that kind of fit this style, but I feel like Rusev, given his background, could. Definitely.
Another name that I would be interested in seeing in New Japan is Lio Rush, the man of the hour, the 25-year-old piece of gold. I would love to see him in the junior division. If there was a Best of Super Juniors this year and you're bringing in an outsider and Lio still wants to wrestle, that's a guy I would love to see in a Best of Super Juniors.
Yeah, the thing with Lio is he's so talented. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking about, his career, and from what I've seen, like his time in Ring of Honor and then in WWE, it's like I can't really remember any like truly compelling programs he ever had. I can remember compelling matches galore, but I don't remember any compelling like programs, unless you really liked like the Lashley stuff, which I wasn't that into.
Right.
And I've heard him. He almost sounds like he's content with what he's done in the wrestling industry. And I'm like, well, from an athletic and achievement standpoint, sure. And from professional, like I made it to the top scene and had success there. That's great. But like, I don't know, from that like creative, like blood feud, like memorable storylines, like, creating a character that resonates with people to the point where like people are going to remember it. Like, I don't think he's ever done that anywhere really. And I think that is something that he still needs to do. And I think he could do in a number of places, including New Japan. Like, I would love to see him come work here and work with the talent that's here and have long-standing feuds with different people. And I think that would really benefit him and the company.
Yeah, definitely. And, it kind of sounds like he might be more focused on his music kind of going forward, but I hope that there's still the wrestling bug in him and he still wants to, break on the scene and do something more with his career.
Yeah, it's interesting with some indie guys. There's a lot of guys like from the indies who have had like compelling, like, I think of people like ACH, Ricochet. I don't know. Those are like just two names that come to mind who like had a lot of success in the indies or even like a Johnny Gargano. I would say people like that who like bounced all over. They were kind of like at the top of their game during like the quote unquote super indies boom. But like very few of them were ever stayed in a territory long enough to like have that career defining like promos mixed with storyline, mixed with backstage, mixed with like the heat and anticipation of the big match. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I think he's missing that for his career. I really do. I think that he didn't get an opportunity to really like showcase that or even learn that sort of thing in WWE. I think in AEW he could definitely, they would use him much better.
Right, and that might be more good for his schedule. Just works one day a week, and then he can focus on his music and whatever else he wants to do for the rest of the time. So we'll see what happens there.
New Japan's been a great benefit to someone like, say, Rocky Romero with his music career. So maybe there'd be an avenue for him to do something with New Japan. But, long term, most great wrestlers do want to come work in Japan and test themselves on the biggest stage here in Japan. And I feel like the money's there, the opportunity's there. Like he should do it.
Yeah, and I mean, what better way to get your name out there than to be on national TV or to be on a streaming service with over 100,000 subscribers? That's essentially free advertising for you, for yourself and your brand. And when people Google you, they'll find your music as well. So
yeah.
So moving on to the rest of the questions. First from Reddit user Viking Pain. He says, I know this is a New Japan-centric podcast, and even though NJPW is my number one promotion to follow and watch, I am also a pro wrestling fan that watches and follows a ton of different promotions. But with the recent news of Linda McMahon's Super PAC giving money away to Florida on the same day the WWE was considered an essential business, followed by the recent talent releases and furloughs they've done to keep margins high to show their investors in hard times like this, I'm finding it really hard to justify supporting the WWE now, especially with recent news that New Japan is paying all their talents and employees in full, and even smaller companies like ROH are doing the same. Any comments about WWE's recent moves? So I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but any more thoughts on WWE?
Yeah, we've touched on it, but I'll leave you with this thought. In these trying times, it's not unfathomable that it might be necessary for a company to make some cuts, to make a cut to the budget, make a change, if it's necessary. Like, that isn't inconceivable with what's going on in the world right now. But with that being said, this is the absolute worst time to make a cut like this for individuals, knowing that, like, it's becoming increasingly harder to even get on something like unemployment, the kind of strain it's putting on, like, the economy and the individuals and the government, everything of that nature. But then to turn around and make that cut when your company is poised to have record revenue and profits, it goes to show, and we'll know more on Thursday, like I mentioned, but this cut was not done because this company is bleeding. Although there are indicators that the company is not, all the classic indicators of success in pro wrestling, they're not meeting those metrics. They're basically just a TV content creator at this point, if we're being honest. But regardless, the company is about to have one of the best, like, performing years they've ever had. And this cut isn't the thing that's causing them to have that. This cut is happening because just like when they fired Eric Bischoff, or just like when they fired their presidents last quarter, they have bad numbers. Their stock is underperforming. They have a quarterly call, and they need to make some cuts before they have that quarterly call so that they can tell those investors, oh, there were issues, but we have made a change. Here, look at the actions we took. Even though those actions are superfluous and not actually dealing with the issues at hand, they're doing this just to save face. And not only that, it's a cosmetic thing. Like, they didn't need to do this. It's their prerogative. They can choose to do it. But in my book, it's truly despicable. Like, it actually is truly despicable. It's like, if you couldn't afford to keep these people, then why did you hoard them all against your competition? Like, AEW couldn't have hired all these people anyways. They did it because they were living out of a fear-based mentality. And then once things cleared up, they cut them all. I think it's really revolting. Like, I think it's like one of the most disgusting. I mean, I don't know. This is the same company that works for Saudi Arabia, so I don't even know why I'm like spending so much time talking about it.
Yeah, it's just another black eye on the company. And yeah, just another thing when you look back in the history of this promotion, it's be another one of those things where it's like, yes, they were so successful, but just look at some of their business practices and the way they did things. So yeah, it's just going to be one of these things that like I mentioned, it's another black eye on this company.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
So a second question we already touched on with the Japanese promotion, the meeting with the Japanese government. His last question, any cool Howard Finkel memories? So this past week, Howard Finkel, legendary ring announcer, did pass away.
You know, interesting thing. Howard Finkel didn't leave the same impression on me that he did with everybody else. Am I like alone in that?
I mean, he for me, he's kind of like, as far as like a ring announcer, is kind of the voice of a lot of big title matches, and his and new kind of call and one fall. Like, he's a very distinct voice.
Absolutely. The following contest is scheduled for one fall. Yeah, I mean, of course, but like as far as like on-screen presence, I don't know. When I think of like I think for a lot of people, when they think of WWF in its prime and like what defined the company, they think of like JR, they think of King, they think of like Vince and Austin, and the red and black, Raw's sort of like set up for everything. But I really don't. For me, I think of like primetime wrestling. I think of like wrestling in the 90s. I think of like Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, Vince, Jesse Ventura, that whole cast of crew, Mean Gene Okerlund, and I think of Howard Finkel. I think the one lasting memory really of Howard that kind of sticks out in my mind is when he went to Hair Club for Men in 1994. At WrestleMania, because I had WrestleMania 10 on VHS, and like I watched it all the time growing up. And like he showed up at WrestleMania 10 and he had a full head of hair, and I was like, what? And they're like, you went to Hair Club for Men. It was a toupee, I guess. And then Harvey Whippleman came out and like talked shit, and then they got into a feud. They ended up having a tuxedo match on like one of the early Monday Night Wars, and like, or Monday Night Raws in like 1993, 94. And I do remember, I think that's the most memorable tuxedo match that I can remember in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the thing with Howard Finkel is like, he's probably the greatest ring announcer in wrestling history.
Yeah. As far as a recent memory, I always remember when CM Punk brought him in to be his personal ring announcer with the Alberto Del Rio feud, because obviously Alberto had Ricardo Rodriguez as his personal ring announcer, and Punk brought in Howard Finkel for the big match. I believe it was Survivor Series of that year.
See, I was not watching I don't think I was paying attention to that when that was happening. So I kind of missed that whole thing. I've heard a lot of people mention that though, but the thing I will say about Howard is I've seen him in shoot interviews over the years. We've seen him at wrestling, like WrestleCons and different fan events, like, and he's just like the nicest guy, just like a good heart. Like everybody who ever talked about Howard Finkel had nothing but good things to say about him, and someone who is truly, truly passionate about pro wrestling. I do remember. Okay, I will say this: like one of the most iconic things is like back in the 80s and 90s when they had wrestling in Madison Square Garden, they didn't have the WWF microphones. Instead, they had the MSG microphone, which was like suspended in the air and it would come down in the middle.
Yeah.
And I always remember like Howard Finkel like just being that guy in the center, like doing the ring announcing on all those MSG shows from the 80s that I like. I think did he sing the national anthem on WrestleMania 1?
Did he?
Either him or Gene Okerlund did. I want to say it was Howard Finkel.
I don't remember that. Maybe he did.
But yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. Life is short.
Yeah. So yeah, R.I.P. Fink. You will be missed. Moving on to a question from Kyle Martin from the Wrestling Squared Circle. Has a few questions here. First, he says, in your opinion, respectively, do you think Chris Benoit has any sort of legacy or influence in New Japan history? To understand what I'm saying, I was introduced to New Japan as a kid from the Benoit Hard Knocks DVD, and I thought those matches were some of his greatest.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the legacy, I think in recent years, for modern fans, when people are introduced to the 90s, everyone is talking about the Musketeers now. So you hear people talk about Muto, Chono Hashimoto, Hase, Sasaki, everything like that. But growing up, because this stuff was hard to find, the most circulated videos that were out there, and the thing that Meltzer and everyone talked about was the junior division. And at the top of that division, as far as like influential workers, was Chris Benoit, Pegasus Kid. You know, I mean, he had a long standing in the company. I think he was there from like I'm just estimating, but I think from like 90 to 96, so about 6 years. And I mean, he wrestled all the names, all the top guys in the company, and had blowaway matches. Some of his best work was in Japan. And then not only that, but like obviously in the States as well as over in Japan, how many workers wrestle like him, have, you know, emulated his style. So of course, I think he's extremely influential when it comes to his legacy in Japan.
Definitely, and you know, we've been covering a lot of his big matches in the junior division in the Final Countdown during our Best of the Super Junior series. And you can just see by the people he's beating in these tournaments and winning tournaments back to back how much of a star he was in that junior division and just how pushed he was there. And so yeah, like you mentioned, definitely a lasting influence as far as style wise in New Japan and wrestling all around. Unfortunate instances kind of shadow, you know, Benoit's contributions to the business. But if you watch guys who studied him, you can see his style all over the wrestling business today.
Awesome. Next question. Could you guys tell me when the crown version of the IWGP World title was introduced, as well as the current design, please? And as well for the I was watching TNA when Kurt Angle was the IWGP champion, so I'm having trouble distinguishing the timelines. I read that New Japan created a new world title to replace the old one held hostage in the IGF. Would that be the third belt? Jeremy?
So I know you've explained this in the past before with kind of how the titles got separated during that time period. And essentially it was Brock who kind of held the belt hostage. And didn't Brock take it to another promotion?
Yeah. Actually, I was just throwing it to you to be a jerk and be funny, but yeah, actually you're correct. So basically there have been essentially 4 IWGP title designs. The first one was a round design, famously worn by like Hulk Hogan and Inoki and Fujinami, guys like that. It's actually my favorite title design they've ever had. The second the second one that's also very well known is what they call the crown design. It was a smaller belt and it looked sort of like a crown. And I don't know the exact date, but it definitely was introduced in the early to mid 90s. I think they gave it to Hashimoto, and lots of people wore that belt, but it was most closely associated with him because he had numerous, like almost multi-year title reigns during that time frame. So like him and Muta were like the 2 guys that held that belt a lot. And then in the early 2000s, they introduced a third design, which if you're familiar with the belt that Kurt Angle wore on TNA, that's the third IWGP title belt design. And it's the one that Brock Lesnar won in 2003. And when he left the company and held the title hostage, and he went to go work for Inoki Genome Federation, they actually had to reintroduce the second belt, the crown belt, in the meantime because they did not have a new design. And then what ended up happening was ultimately Brock agreed to drop the belt to Angle. Angle was under contract to TNA. TNA had a working relationship with New Japan. So he brought the belt back to New Japan and dropped it to Nakamura during one of the, I think Wrestle Kingdom, I want to say 2, but it might be 3. One of those. And they eventually came out with the design we have today, which, little known fact, the design that we have today encompasses the design of all 3 titles. So it has influences of the crown, influences of the third belt, because the third belt was like multi-layered, and then there's a circle inside of this which represents the original title.
Nice.
Yeah.
So his next question, he says, I really like your opinion on this because I've only been a fan since late 2003 Who was either the most successful Japanese wrestler in American history or the most famous in historical terms?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Liger's up there. Muto is definitely up there.
Yeah, those would probably be. We're talking like American history based off of their run to WCW and just kind of the influence they just had worldwide, and those are probably two of the most recognizable guys to casual fans.
I would say there's a good argument for Muto just because of how long he worked in the States, not only in the NWA, but also WCW and also in the various territories. And if you talk about, North America, he also had work in like Calgary and in Texas and things of that nature. I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about obviously you have to talk about WWE. I think like Mr. Fuji is a name that had a lot of success. Masa Saito had a lot of success in the States.
What about Tajiri?
That I was going to say Tajiri's another one. Tajiri's a big name for a lot of like fans of the Attitude Era and like the Ruthless Aggression Era. Anyone else that you can think of that like sticks out? Obviously Nakamura in modern times and Asuka.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if anybody else kind of pops up.
I mean,
Ultimo Dragon, maybe?
Yep, Ultimo Dragon in WCW. I mean, WCW had a lengthy working relationship with New Japan. So, I mean, Chono had a lot of success there. Tenzan had success there. But, I think Muto's the right answer as far as, like, guys that had long-term success. I think it has to be the Great Muta.
Yeah. And then as far as famous overall historical terms, would you say Inoki?
The most famous Japanese wrestler in historical terms?
Yeah.
No, it's Rikidozan by far. Rikidozan is one of the 3 most famous wrestlers that have ever lived ever in history. Rikidozan was doing like 83.0 television ratings for some of his big matches. Like there are more people in Japan watching some of Rikidozan's big matches, like the ones against like Luthez, the one against the him and Kimura against the Sharp brothers, him and the Destroyer, him and Freddie Blassie. Those all did around 40, 50, 60 million. Like the most famous match in just to put it in terms, in North America, the most watched and viewed wrestling match in history is Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant in 1988 on the main event. And that did it around 30 million. Rikidozan had like 4 or 5 matches in Japan years before that like eclipsed that. They're like double the viewership. He's one of the greatest national heroes in terms of like impact. I mean, the only person I can really say in America that is a sports figure that maybe has the same kind of like recognition and importance is like maybe Muhammad Ali. Maybe not worldwide, but in Japan, as far as a cultural icon, Rikidozan's by far the most famous Japanese wrestler. And there are other famous Japanese wrestlers, but there's not a close second. It's Rikidozan, and there's no one else even close to him.
Nice. His next question: do either of you know what led to the formations of Chaos and Suzuki-gun? So I know it's Suzuki-gun one, so I know that Suzuki-gun.
You know what? I would say this would be my answer. There are 2 really, really great videos on this subject that will cover it much more in depth than we probably could. For what's it called, the recount?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the history of Suzuki-gun and the history of Chaos, and there's a lot of moving parts to both of those stories. I would literally just say go check out the recount on NJPW, or on their
it's on their YouTube. It's also on NJPW World, but yeah, they have a lot of different like breakdowns, like 5-6 videos in those series, kind of explaining the kind of shifts in both of those groups and how they were formed.
Yeah.
And his last question, he says, this correlates to my next question. What was the last faction in New Japan to disband and why? Would it be Great Bash Heel?
It's one of them. Although technically it still exists.
Right, but they don't. But like the announcers really, like nobody really acknowledges that. Like besides like Makabe and Hanma, like the commentators don't really call them Great Bash Heel that much, and like it's never on the website or results or anywhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like of what the last faction was. I mean, yeah, Great Bash Heel and Rise were the two that gave way to Chaos. Kojima-gun gave rise to Suzuki-gun. I really don't know the answer. That's a great question. Yeah. Maybe someone listening can tell us what the last. I feel like there's got to be some obvious answer that we're overlooking right now.
Yeah. Great Bash Heel is the only one that's like popping in my head right now.
Yeah, if someone's listening and they know what the last faction to disband in New Japan was, hit us up. Let us know. I very rarely do we not have an answer for one of these questions. It's a great question.
Next question from Reddit user It's Chunky. Do you think NJPW will land a TV deal or have a new video game anytime soon?
Well, they did just land a TV deal in Japan, which is great.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably talking about a U.S. TV deal.
Well, I mean, the rumors were that they were in talks with Vice. Are we supposed to say that or no?
Yeah, I mean, Dave Meltzer talked about it on there.
Okay, I didn't know he said that. Yeah, so that was the talk was that they were having discussions with them. I know they've had was interest from New Japan working with other TV companies, but I don't know. Everything has changed, obviously, with what's going on with COVID-19.
Yeah, it's very hard right now to make deals and finalize stuff and pitch stuff. So I'm sure if they were in the process, I'm sure a lot of that stuff is being kind of halted right now, and they wouldn't really have, if they're trying to put new content, they really don't have new content to give to a TV company right now to put out. So I'm sure once things kind of pick back up, they might start getting back into talks with some companies.
As far as video games, God, I would love a New Japan video game. I mean, there's a whole plethora of fantastic Japanese wrestling video games out there that most fans and people just haven't really been exposed to or even know about. If you want some access to some of those emulators and some ROMs, hit up my buddy Rich Latta. he can expose you guys. But I mean, right now, Fire Pro Wrestling is pretty awesome. Yeah,
and they have the latest version has the New Japan expansion, or like they were like a partnership where they brought in they had an official design with New Japan wrestlers in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been a long time since like we've had like a King of Colosseum or a Tokan Retsuden or one of those famous like video games, and it would be really cool if they like had something like that again. I would love it, but for the time being, I haven't heard anything about it,
Yeah, that's one of those things that, I haven't heard not even the slightest of rumors of them working on a new video game. So
yeah,
hopefully that'll be down the line. Next question here from Reddit user Highest Fly Flow. Just hope you guys are safe and doing good. For the question, where would you rate Murakami on the Bret Hart scale? Been watching his stuff in New Japan and BML, and it's shocking how good he is, yet he isn't remembered as much. Even though that Konami cage match with Murakami and Tanahashi was a mess, the two of them did real good. All right, Josh, so this one's on you. Murakami's Bret Hart score.
Yeah, so as far as look, I don't know. This is like one of the hardest like grades I've ever given. I don't know. Murakami's look. Well, he doesn't have a great body, but he's scary as hell and like super imposing. He looks like an anime character, actually. I would go like 7.5 on the look. And then what's the next one?
Mike.
I've never really listened to him on the mic, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a different era. It's like the early 2000s. I think I've heard him say some stuff, but I couldn't even accurately grade that. I'll just give him a 7 just to be fair. I don't know.
Okay, and then work.
That's weird. Some people would be like a 4 or a 5, and some people would give him like a 10. Like Murakami's all over the board. And the thing about Murakami, he's like one of the most violent guys you've ever seen, but he's super inconsistent. Like, it kind of depends. His style was so weird. Like, it depends on who he's wrestling and what kind of mood he's in. Like, whether he wants to work hard or whether he doesn't, and whether he's with someone talented enough to like lay a match out for him in a compelling way, like Nagata. I don't know. I would just because he's so violent and crazy, I'd still go like 7.5.
Okay, and then it factor.
It factor is like 8.5. There's something really like intangible about Murakami. He's dangerous. Like, watching Murakami is not. It's there's not too many guys that like kind of give you that sense of like, oh, this is real. Like, I don't want to say he's like the Japanese New Jack, but in a way it kind of feels that way a little bit. Like this feels different. So I don't know. That's a weird question.
Next question from Reddit user Rambone Slam Pig. If you could book any current NJPW star against the top stars of the past in their prime, what would your top matches be?
I can think of one right off the top of my head immediately. That'd be super easy. Kazuchika Okada versus Kenta Kobashi.
That would be, yeah.
That'd be like the two greatest of their eras going at it, and it'll never happen. And yeah, I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, so for me, I've really been falling in love with Koji Kanemoto while doing our Best of Super Junior watching in Project, and I would like to see Koji Kanemoto against Shingo.
Oh, wow.
I just feel like Koji just has this mean streak, and he has a lot of hard strikes. He has an amateur wrestling background. He can get real nasty, and I think him and Shingo would have a great mix of this like hard style, like strong style match, and then Kanemoto doing the springboards and diving and kind of mixing it up. I think it'd be a really fun match.
I'd have to check, but I'm not convinced that that's never happened before. I'm pretty sure there's a good given like both of their status on the independent scene over the past few years, and I'm pretty sure Koji has worked some matches in Dragon Gate. Like I don't. Yeah, he worked for them just last year, I think. Let me see. I'm gonna take a look right now and see if he has ever worked with Shingo Takagi. Never, huh? I've never met. Oh, okay. I'll tell you another one of mine. So I always hear people talking about how, when they talk about Tanahashi, they want to see him against Cena because they're like the two faces of the companies around the same era. I also see people always talk about how they want to see him wrestle Shawn Michaels because their styles are so similar. But bump that. That's not the match I want. If I could ever book a legend of the past to wrestle Tanahashi, easily it would be Bret Hart. I think that those two guys would like literally tear the house down.
Dude, that would be an incredible matchup.
I think like they're probably, in my opinion, two of the greatest storytelling wrestlers that have ever lived, and I just can't imagine that couldn't be good.
Right, yeah. That would be an incredible match. Both in their primes, yeah.
Yeah. What are some other matches that you could think of that you'd like?
Trying to think here. So, I think Misawa versus Okada.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, two of those the top guys there in their eras.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Misawa. I know he worked some. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I was trying to remember. He worked against somebody in New Japan in a tag match, but I think it was. Liger. I think the only time Misawa and Liger were in a match together was in a tag match at like in a Tokyo Dome show at one point in like 03, 04-ish. One match I've always wanted, and I guess it could hypothetically still happen. It probably never will, but like I want a 2005 Samoa Joe to take on a 2018 like a 2018 Tomohiro Ishii.
That would be incredible.
So yeah, I mean those are like three I can think of off the top of my head. Can you give us a good one for Will?
Will Ospreay versus Tiger Mask 1.
Yeah, Sayama. That'd be pretty crazy.
So yeah, good question there, Rambones. So next from our user Grunty Dodds, what was Liger's best look?
I mean, CTU Liger's probably his best look.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That all black with like the gold on there.
It's fucking hard.
Yes.
You know what? I really, really, really like that the attire he wore when he challenged for the J Crown for the first time. The all gold. The all gold is like pretty awesome.
There's a blue one that I seen in the NJPW collection card game that I think is pretty cool. I'm not sure when exactly it's from, but that looks pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure if I'm recalling this correctly, that's probably from one of the early Tokyo Domes. I know he had a green look that he wore that people just hate, but I think is kind of cool because it reminds me of the Green Ranger.
Yeah, dude, I love the Green Ranger growing up.
So yeah.
Next question here from Reddit user Just a Little Bear 01. Do either of you have any recommendations of a undercredited or underloved star of NJPW's past who has matches worth checking out on NJPW World? Hope you're staying safe.
Well, there's probably a lot of people. I would say if I had to name one person right off the bat who I think is underloved and underappreciated, probably Fujiwara.
Okay.
That would be like, yeah, I would have to say Fujiwara. Like, I always forget his first name. Toshiaki? Yeah, Fujiwara. Yoshiaki. I don't know. I had a moment. Sorry. So, the deal is, in my opinion, I think like Yoshiaki Fujiwara is the best New Japan worker of the 80s, like by far. And not only do I think he's the best, but I think he's extremely underrated and undervalued when it comes to history. A lot of people talk about like Riki Choshu and they talk about like Fujinami, but Fujiwara kind of gets left out because he didn't have the same kind of like, I don't know. He kind of reminds me in a way like Fujiwara is sort of like Arn Anderson. Like he looked old even when he was young, but, Carl Gotch said this about Fujiwara. He said like his two best trainees that he ever had were Sayama and Fujiwara. He said Fujiwara is like the best performing student that he ever had, like ever. And, Fujiwara is the guy that gave rise to Minoru Suzuki and Masakatsu Funaki and the guys that he trained, freaking Ken Shamrock and all those guys that started Pancrase. But yeah, Fujiwara, he has some of the best matches of the 80s of any performer in Japan, and he just doesn't get a lot of love. I don't know why.
Yeah, and for me, what I thought about with this question is, there's a lot of newer New Japan fans, and always New Japan's kind of jumping in, and I know a lot of guys kind of watch the New Japan dads and don't really understand just how great they were. So I think if you are a newer fan and you started watching New Japan in the last couple of years, I think it would really be good to like go back and watch, Satoshi Kojima and Yuji Nagata and and Tenzon in their primes and their IWGP title matches and a lot of their stuff. Right now in the Together project, they're uploading a lot of their stuff in that Together project. They just uploaded Kojima and Nakamura, which is on my list to watch. So I think a lot from those guys is you should go back and check out.
Yeah, they were uploading so much like quote unquote together content before with all the talk shows and stuff. I didn't really get most of that never got translated, so it didn't make sense for me to even follow a lot of it. But now they're just like uploading stuff to the freaking to the what's it called? Like to the archives, stuff that should have been there but just wasn't, and I'm fine with that. Like, it's unfortunate it takes a pandemic for something like that to happen, but like at least we're getting access to some of these famous matches that like should have been there all along, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But
you hit the nail right on the head. The third generation dads are sort of like the forgotten class, and I mean those guys absolutely. I like 100% agree. Like, yeah, they're not really appreciated for how great they were, especially like in my opinion. And I know you're a Kojima guy, but Nagata is the best all-around performer out of all those guys in his prime, and he doesn't get enough credit for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Next question here from the Discord. EMJ does PR. He says, here's my question. Have you guys seen Taichi's at-home training routine on his YouTube? I'm a fan.
I feel like maybe this is a troll. I haven't checked it out. Is it real?
I don't know. I have not seen it yet either.
Okay.
So yeah,
I feel like we're gonna go look at it. It's gonna be something weird and sexual. I don't know.
Then his other question, he says, if you had to drink a 60 ounce of Satori whiskey with 3 current NJPW wrestlers, who would they be?
Oh man, who do I want to chill with? I don't know who. Okay, I guess I'll just name like some people I would like to hang out with. That I feel like, probably Bullet Club. Probably like Tama. Like Tama's like entertainment. He'll like keep things hype. Fale. In case things go south, he's the muscle. And then I don't know, Ishimori. Maybe those 3 guys. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, so I kind of picked a little bit of a mix of guys. So first of all, I'm like, well, if I'm drinking Satori whiskey, you gotta have Kanemaru, yeah, there with you. He's gonna be a supplier. And then I'm thinking Finjuice. We always kind of hear the stories of them, like nobody can outdrink those so guys.
Cool. Why didn't I think of that?
And I know we've chilled with Juice after shows before and talked to him, and he seems like a cool dude. And so, yeah,
dude. I'm changing I want to chill with Roppongi 3K, Rocky, Show and Yo. But yeah, that's a great question. Jack Groom asked us if this year's Best Super Junior isn't able to proceed as scheduled, and New Japan are only left with a half a year's worth of show dates. Would you be in favor of canceling a lesser tour like World Tag League and putting the junior tournament in its place?
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to come down to business decisions and just, availabilities of buildings. Will it make sense to do the Best of Super Juniors in some of the smaller buildings that they're running the World Tag League in? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, personally, would I rather see a Best of Super Juniors over a World Tag League? Absolutely. But I think it just comes down to dates and building availability.
All right, let me pitch this to you. This is my idea. This is what they need to do. G1 Climax with the Junior Tag League on the undercard. And then later in the year, Junior, the Best of Super Juniors with the World Tag League on the undercard.
That sounds lit.
That sounds fucking awesome.
Oh my gosh, that would be epic.
New Japan office, Gato, if you guys are listening, book it.
Yeah, you definitely draw some houses with that.
Oh man. Mad Nutter 0102 said, I've only seen a few heel Yano matches. How good was he as a bad guy? Which faction was he in? Yeah, so Yano was a heel as part of Chaos, and before that he was a heel as part of GBH.
Yeah, and he was like a death match wrestler. Had a lot of chain matches, like him and Makabe would always use change, and Yeah, I mean, I've only seen kind of clips. I know they uploaded some matches of his from that time period. I haven't watched them yet. But yeah, from what I've seen, he was very aggressive, very violent. There was juice in his matches. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, the funny thing is like the whole like Toro, yeah, no, like that whole thing came from when TNA was in partnership with New Japan and they were co-headlining Wrestle Kingdoms together. They had a match between RVD and Yano was still in his like top heel persona at the time. And when he stole the RVD, Rob Van Dam, the Toru Yano, that was like the genesis of him becoming goofy. And it was like a slow transition. Prior to that match, you never saw like comedy out of this guy.
He's probably like, this is the way, it's time for me to save my body. Yeah, so next question here from Twitter follower at Yushirogi. It says, fight to the death. The weapons are a bat and a 6-inch knife. You pick the weapon, your opponent gets the other. What do you choose?
That's a great question. I think I'd take the knife.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one. I guess it just depends on like who I'm fighting.
I mean, the thing is like, the bat, you could do a lot of damage, obviously, and you can end somebody with the bat, and you can really kick their ass. But I
mean, if you're faster, the knife, you can get some quick kind of shank action there.
I mean, yeah, like I just think like I know how to stay low. I know how to like double leg somebody or like single leg or go for an ankle pick or whatever, and like I don't even have to take them down. I just have to get close enough to nullify the bat.
Right.
Which, as long as I know they have the bat, I can fuck somebody up with a knife, like no doubt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't want to be the one with the bat who's having to like knock it out of the park, because you miss one time and you're fucked.
Yeah, it's over.
Like,
Yeah, it's game time.
I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad to have a bat or a knife, but I feel like I could. I mean, like I'd kill somebody if I had the knife.
Right. You're gonna slit the throat, just shank them in the ribs.
I just bet.
I'm bleeding.
That's a really weird question, Ishirogi. I feel like that's a question that like someone just asked and like they're not even listening to the show. Like that's for everyone else just to kind of know like what our morbid minds think at this point.
Last question here from Reddit user dgross69. I
don't even have that on the rundown. When did that come in?
So this came in 49 minutes ago, right before we actually started recording here. So he got this question in just in time. He says, I saw a match recently with CTU participants. I would like some match recommendations to get a history of the faction.
Yeah, maybe next week. CTU, like that whole era of New Japan, like them's be the dark days. But I'll work on something for you. I don't have anything off the top of my head, to be honest.
Yeah, so we'll get some recommendations, and maybe that could be.
And I'm wondering what he wants. Like, does he just want like match recommendations? I mean, like CTU, to my understanding, was pretty much all about Liger, but like whatever. I'll do some research for you.
All right. Well, there's only one thing left. It is time for. It's time for the final countdown, week 2. So to kind of recap, so last week we covered Top of the Super Juniors 1988, Koshinaka versus Hiroshi Hase, 1991 Top of Super Junior with Nori Hoganaga and Jushin Thunder Liger, 92 Top of Super Junior with El Samurai versus Jushin Thunder Liger, 93 Top of Super Junior with Pegasus Kid, aka Chris Benoit versus El Samurai. And then we did the first Best of Super Junior from 1994, Jushin Thunder Liger versus Super Delphin.
Yes, which I loved the first episode, and I can't wait to get into the second episode.
Yeah, and so I think we're both kind of in agreement that from the crop last week, the Samurai Liger match was the best match we talked about last week.
Yeah, by far. It was really, really, that's a special match. And before we continue, for those of you listening, so we're going to be talking about the years 1995 through 1998. We were supposed to be talking about the year all the way through to 1999. We cannot find footage for the 1999 Best of Super Juniors.
And we've looked everywhere. We've hit up all the Puro archive experts, all the Google Drives, all the chat rooms, message boards, all the people you would think about. We've been hitting up and trying to get footage. And shout out to the people who have hit us back and have been helping us get footage. Chris Samsa, Dylan Fox, Damon McDonald from Super J-Cast. A lot of guys have been helping us out and getting footage.
Yeah, there have been a lot of people who have kind of gone out of their way to help us on this project, which has been really, really great. But we can't find the year. So what years do we need? We need 1999, 2005, and 2008?
Yeah, I think that's all that's left, I believe, yeah.
Okay. If you guys have the years 1999, or if you know of a way to find access to the Best Super Junior Finals matches from 1999, 2005, or 2008, please hit us up. What we plan to do at this point going forward, if come next week we do not have access to the 1999 match, we will discuss it without having seen it. We will not review it, but we'll discuss what happened and the ramifications, and then we will move on. If at some point in the future we gain access to those matches after this project's over, we'll review them. But for the time being, unless it's going to fall on you guys. If you're listening, please, whatever you can. We don't really ever ask that much from you guys anyways, but like if you are listening, please, whatever you can do, help us to find this footage, because we do not want to leave this project incomplete. We do plan, once this project is over, to compile all the final countdown sections into one master episode with timestamps so that it can be kind of like just documented as a resource. And we would love to have all 30 or 31 matches, hint, hint, on the profile. But, we're asking you guys for your help at this point.
Yeah, so if you have those footage, please go out and reach out to us. You can hit us up, Reddit, Twitter, email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. So our first tournament that we're looking at this week is Best of the Super Juniors 1995. And so this is the second tournament under the Best of the Super Junior name. And this year it's a 10-man tournament. It's being held from June 23rd to July 13th. This year's participants, we had Wild Pegasus, Shinjiro Otani, Black Tiger 2, which was Eddie Guerrero, Koji Kanemoto, Dean Malenko, Gran Hamada, Flying Brian Pillman, El Samurai, Alex Wright, Das Wonder Kid, and Norio Hoganaga. And so the interesting thing here with these participants, Honaga's a guy that we saw from the first tournament, was in that kind of jobber role. And then the next year, elevated, was in the finals, won the thing, won the title. Then you kind of fast forward to this year again. He's on the bottom, but he had 4 points because he got injured during the tournament, and so everybody else got forfeits from the matches that they were supposed to face against Onaga. So he didn't return to jobber status. He just got hurt there. And so then they took us to the semifinals. Ended up being Wild Pegasus, Chris Benoit versus Black Tiger, Eddie Guerrero. And then Shinjiro Otani versus Koji Kanemoto. And we had Otani defeating Kanemoto. And then Wild Pegasus defeating Black Tiger. Which takes us to our final match, July 13th, 1995. In Sapporo, in the Nakajima Sports Center, Wild Pegasus versus Shinjiro Otani. Josh, give us some info on Shinjiro Otani.
Yeah, so Shinjiro Otani would ultimately go on to be one of the most legendary, junior heavyweight competitors in all of New Japan history. He is a contemporary of guys like Koji Kanemoto and Takaiwa. He's sort of like from that class of performers. But he made his he trained under Animal Hamaguchi and made his debut in New Japan Pro Wrestling in just 1992. So we're talking about, 3 years into his career, he is, in the finals of the Best Super Juniors tournament. So at this point, he's won no titles. And he had, for the first 2 years of his career, been pretty much a up-and-coming young lion, essentially. But by the time 1995 came around, we entered into the feud with the UWFI, and he was kind of utilized as one of the like defenders against the UWFI. So, that was something that kind of helped catapult his career and get him to a place where he was sort of a contender for the IWGP Junior title within that year. So, him facing Wild Pegasus in the finals of this tournament is just another part of that story, but also a big sign of things to come for him, because up to this point he hadn't won, any titles or anything of that nature. He would go on to hold the J Crown. He would also go on to be the inaugural first ever WCW Cruiserweight champion, who he actually won that title a year later in a more famous match between Chris Benoit and Otani in the finals of a tournament for that. Multiple time IWGP Junior Tag Team and Junior Heavyweight Champion. And most people would probably know him most recently as the president and competitor in 0-1.
Nice. And so we kind of already talked about Wild Pegasus last week. And, at this point, Chris Benoit, he's been in Japan for a little bit now and kind of really making a name for himself in this New Japan Junior Division. Finds himself in the finals once again here with Shinjiro Otani. So what do you think about this match?
Well, before we talk about that, a couple things I just want to touch base on. So keep in mind with Benoit, we did talk about him, but real quick, he not only is coming off of the 1993 Top of the Super Juniors win, but then he went on to win the the first ever Super J Cup in 1994 going into this match. So it's like he's had 2 big tournament wins back to back heading into this match. So not only that, I think he's working for WCW at this point. Like he hasn't made it there because he starts working there in late 95. But Benoit's already like very, very well established, very well known when it comes to his placement within the standings in New Japan. And yeah, the fact that it's Otani against Wild Pegasus, it's kind of a mismatch. One other thing, I don't know if you noticed this, they are not headlining this card. I think this is one of the first ever Super Juniors where the Super Junior tournament finals is in the middle of the card. The headliner for this show was Road Warrior Animal against Keiji Muto.
Yeah, I noticed that because on the way we watched this on the drive that we got, it had the full show. And so, yeah, that main event was, I think it wasn't like Warrior Hawk or something like that his New Japan name was.
Yeah, because he was part of the Hell Warriors. Him and Power Warrior, which was Kensuke Sasaki.
Yeah,
they were the Hellraisers.
So Junior's not main eventing here, and obviously it's not Liger, and they're kind of building up Wild Pegasus right now and Otani. So I guess these guys weren't at that level to where they felt that they could main event with these guys.
Yeah, so this match is interesting. I will say this, it didn't do it for me. It really didn't. It's not a bad match by any means. It's an interesting match. In fact, when I was watching it, I kind of thought that you might, with you being an amateur, I don't know, because you're also a spot monkey, Mark.
I have an addiction.
Yeah, you have an addiction. But then also there's times where you really mark out for the actual like catch sort of thing. And this was a very like ground oriented like wrestling match as far as I could tell. Like I would say out of all the matches we've seen so far, this had the most like actual mat-based wrestling of any junior final so far.
Yeah, and this definitely was not like the junior style match. There was not a ton of high spots or diving and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, definitely a more ground based, a lot of holds and suplexes and stuff like that. And overall, I thought it was fine. Overall, I went 3.5 for my rating. The story of this match here, it was pretty much almost like a one-upsmanship. Like Otani would do something, and then Benoit would do it later in the match, and they would kind of go back and forth with these different moves that they were essentially just trying to one up each other throughout this match.
What it felt to me like, and it's kind of interesting because I didn't know the full background on Otani at the time, so I didn't go in the. To me, when I think of Otani, I think of him in that fantastic match in December of this year at Starrcade with Guerrero. So I already knew he could go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh man, like Benoit and Otani. I've also seen the match from '96, so I was like, this is probably gonna be really good. It didn't live up to my expectations, but when I was watching it, I was like, does it kind of feel like this is like a really long extended Young Lion match?
Yeah,
that's what it came off to me like. Otani got a lot of hope spots where he would do like, big move, dive over the top rope, senton, drop kick, things like that. But then Benoit was like putting this guy in like figure fours and, camel clutches and lion. He put him in a freaking lion tamer at one point.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And, Otani would like fight out of this stuff and like go for a desperation German, and like he was fighting very desperate the whole time, and like he was hitting, like he needed to use the ring, like the space that was given him to like use his offense, whereas like Wild Pegasus was kind of like trying to keep him grounded and keep him from doing all the springboard stuff, and he was trying to submit him almost the entire match, which was cool. It just wasn't super exciting. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was hard hitting. It was solid, but ultimately it just felt like a really long, extended Young Lion match.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too because I know this is a single block tournament, so they did wrestle earlier in the tournament. I'm wondering how this match played out based on that first match. I'm wondering if it was the same kind of structure, if Otani had more control during that matchup here, and Benoit learned from that match to this match. But I believe Benoit beat him earlier in the tournament as well.
I can find out.
I think I saw that when I was looking at Cage Match and getting stuff together for this tournament.
Yeah, I don't know, but the match was really, like I said, it was really solid. But ultimately, when it's coming down, it does pick up. I guess what threw me off was this. It really starts picking up big time. It goes from being like a decent match to like the last 4 minutes are fantastic. And once it starts hitting that next gear, I'm like, oh, they're starting to turn it up. And then it ends. And it happens quick. And that's sort of the same thing that happened in the 93 match with Wild Pegasus against El Samurai. Like, that was another one that I thought, like, once it heated up, it kind of just ended abruptly. And that wasn't totally uncommon for the time because, keep in mind, New Japan is very, like, Inoki-minded at this period, and it wasn't uncommon to see a match just end off of a big move, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it was supposed to be realistic based off fights. But this one was really starting to gear up, and then it just kind of ends. So, Jeremy, take us through those last few minutes there.
Yeah, so towards the end there, Benoit does a scoop slam. He goes for the diving headbutt and misses, and Otani gets a German for the near fall. Otani does a springboard Rana for a near fall, which is pretty cool. And he follows up with a springboard dropkick right to the back of Benoit's head.
Did that not give you Okada mega feels?
Yes. That was awesome. Then Otani follows up with a dragon suplex for a near fall. Then Benoit hits a dragon suplex of his own for a near fall. So there's that kind of that one-upmanship I was kind of talking about.
I didn't pick up on that. It's interesting you picked up on that. But like now I almost kind of want to rewatch this so I can pay attention to the gamesmanship that you're mentioning.
Yeah, and then so Benoit goes for a super backdrop from the top. Otani escapes. It's a missile drop kick. Otani goes back to the top, but Benoit meets him up there and delivers a super tombstone pile driver off the top rope to get the win here.
By far the most shocking finish of any of the Super Junior matches we've seen so far. So while I'm not as high on this match as many of the previous other junior matches we've seen, this might be, I don't want to say the best finish, but it's the most shocking and most impactful one.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second time. The first Wild Pegasus match we reviewed, he hit that super power bomb out of nowhere.
That was crazy too, and that's very similar layout to this one.
Yeah, and then here out of nowhere, this freaking jumping tombstone pile driver, out of nowhere, pretty much to get the win here.
Yeah, just incredible. And then after that's over, this obviously they're right in the middle of a heavy interpromotion between WCW and New Japan. So like you mentioned, Alex Wright was on the tour, Brian Pillman, Dean Malenko, Eddie, and all those guys rush out and celebrate with him in the ring. That's another thing, I wanted to touch on this. They used to give guys big checks and giant trophies. Like, where'd that go?
had to cut the budget down. The dark days had to cut the budget down.
that there was two things that we didn't talk about last week that I want to mention. So one was the pageantry at the end. I know when guys win the tournament now, they get the confetti and they get the single trophy. But back then they'd get like multiple trophies, a giant check. President would come out, shake hands. Other competitors would come out, and that was really cool. But another thing I noticed, how cool was it that all of the tournament competitors would be ringside for the final match?
Yeah, that was awesome. And it seems like they were kind of divided. So obviously, you had like the Gaijins are all like kind of cheering Pegasus, and then your native guys, your New Japan guys were kind of cheering on Otani. And yeah, that's pretty kind of cool out there. And you would see guys and Liger out there in a lot of the matches. Liger's out there like kind of coaching or cheering on the guy he wants to win. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I wish they would kind of bring that sort of thing back. I think we're going to get to a match here where it seems like they're probably going to start doing away with that. But from like about 91 on, that seemed to be the standard procedure here. So that was pretty cool. I don't know. Honestly, I was about 3.5 on this match.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Yeah,
I wouldn't say go out of your way to watch it unless you really, really want to check it out. But like I mentioned before, these are not long matches. These are all within a 30-minute time limit. I think this one was like 16, 17 minutes, something like that. It was pretty easy watching, honestly.
Yeah, it's on that level of the first match of Koshinaka and Hase.
I like the Koshinaka-Hase match better than this one. Believe it or not. I actually think that this might be my least favorite of the tournament so far.
Yeah.
Even though it has an awesome finish.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. Because even like the Pegasus El Samurai match, which I had like 375, like I liked it, but I was expecting a little bit more, but then the finish just comes out of nowhere. And so it's second match here in a row with Benoit. We're seeing a super crazy finish, and you're just like, wow, like how do I rate this low with this crazy finish?
Well, let me tell you this. If it didn't have that crazy finish, I'm like 3.25 on the match.
Yeah, same here.
So that's kind of the deal.
Yeah. And so the aftermath here, Liger, like Liger in the previous year, Benoit wins the tournament for the second year in a row, being the only guy at the time to do so until Prince Devitt would win the tournament in 2010. And like in 93, Pegasus failed in his championship challenge, this time against Koji Kanemoto on September 25th, 1995. And it's a note here, Gran Hamada, who we mentioned as one of the participants, he was from Michinoku Pro Wrestling as one of the guest natives. And then some notes here from the Wrestling Observer. Dave says, while Pegasus Chris Benoit debuted a new killer move, a tombstone pile driver off the top rope and winning the top of the Super
Second rope.
Top of the Super Junior tournament in New Japan, which ended in July 13th in Hiroshima before a sellout 6,500 fans. Pegasus beat Shinjiro Otani in the finals in 19 minutes and 16 seconds. The tournament round robin ended in a 4-way tie with Pegasus, Black Tiger, Eddie Guerrero, Otani, and IWGP and UWA Junior Champion Koji Kanemoto. So they had a pair of semis on the undercard with Pegasus pinning Tiger in 1637 with the tombstone off the top rope, which Tiger sold as being knocked out for several minutes in the ring, and Otani pinned Kanemoto 1524 with the Dragon Suplex.
Yeah.
So interesting, yeah, he busted out that tombstone on Eddie earlier in the night.
Interesting.
So I guess, yeah, if you're watching the whole tournament and back then you saw that, so it probably wasn't as crazy. But if you're just watching this match and you see that, you're just like, whoa, where did that come from?
So he hit it. He hit Eddie Guerrero with the top rope tombstone, and then did the same move in the finals. So he beat two guys with top rope tombstones back to back.
Yeah.
That seems like kind of like he's spamming finishers. I don't know. Whatever. But whatever, you know. I don't know. That seems kind of lazy to me, because it's like, I get it. It's cool. It's cool for a one night story, but it's like, you know, you're supposed to reserve your like super finisher for like that one time. And it's like, if you hit it twice in the same night, I don't know if it has the same effect, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it worked. I don't know. I didn't. Maybe I'll go back and watch. Actually, you know, the funny thing is, Pegasus Kid and Black Tiger is not only on the drive that we have, but it's also on New Japan World. Maybe it's a better match, and maybe that's why it's on New Japan World. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're not going to put this one up.
For those of you who want to find this, we did have to find it on back channel means, but there is a clipped version of the match widely available, I believe, on Daily Motion. It's like a 10-minute video, and it does have the finish on it.
Nice. So now we're going to move on to Best of Super Juniors 1996. So this tournament was held from May 24th to June 12th. And this was the first tournament to use the 2-block format, featuring 7 wrestlers in each block. Now, even though they were using 2-block for this tournament, kind of how they got to the finals was a little bit different. So in the A block, from the bottom, we had Koji Kanemoto with 2 points, Mr. JL, which was Jerry Lynn, with 2 points. We had Emilio Charles with 2 points, Fran Schumann with 2 points, Tetsuya Takaiwa with 8 points, Wild Pegasus with 10 points, and El Samurai with 10 points. Then in the B block from the bottom, we had Viano 4 with 2 points, Ishizawa with 4 points, Norio Honaga with 4 points, Dean Malenko with 6 points, Shinjiro Otani with 6 points, Jushin Thunder Liger with 8 points, and then Black Tiger 2 with 10 points.
How about Dean Malenko's in all these early Super Junior tournaments, and this dude never makes it to the finals?
Always a bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah. Now, here's the funny thing. So me and Jeremy were kind of talking about, the finals, and he's like, the guys from the same block end up in the finals together? Like, what happened here?
Yeah, I was so confused. So the finals of this year's tournament ends up being Black Tiger 2 and Jushin Thunder Liger, which they're both in the same block. And I was like, I didn't understand that. I was like, there's 2 blocks. How did that happen?
So this is basically the explanation. This was actually a very common occurrence in round-robin tournaments that featured 2 blocks back in the day. They kind of done away with it in recent times, but Super Juniors used it, the G1 used it. And what would end up happening is the top 4 point earners, so the top 2 in the A block and the top 2 in the B block, would all progress to a playoff showdown. And the way it would work is the top point earner in A block would be A1, and then obviously the second person would be A2, and then the same thing would happen in the B block. And they would have the top point earner in the A block face the number 2 guy in B block, and vice versa. They'd have the B block top guy face the second guy from A block. So you ended up with a playoff here where El Samurai fought Jushin Thunder Liger and Black Tiger fought Wild Pegasus. And it just so happened that the 2 B block players both progressed and ended up in the finals together.
Yeah, so that was, to me it seems kind of convoluted to do it that way, but
it is. And you know what, sometimes to make it the thing is, like, you would think it's always going to be pretty predictable. It's like, obviously Liger and Tiger are from the same block, right? So you wouldn't expect for them to face each other. Same thing with Samurai and Pegasus. So you would either think it was going to be Tiger versus Samurai or Pegasus against Liger, because those are, the 2 ways that it should go. But in order for like a good booker to kind of like curb that anticipation, sometimes they would need to book 2 guys from the same block, which makes sense. But then it's kind of a letdown.
It's a rematch.
because it's a rematch. Unless it's an anticipated rematch, unless you did a good job building enough hype that people really want that rematch, it kind of sometimes sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say this though. I do know that the Liger Tiger. We're going to review this match here in a second, but their match from earlier in the tournament is also it's very highly regarded. So, I mean, obviously it's Eddie Guerrero and Jushin Thunder Liger. So,
Yeah.
you know, anytime those two guys got in the ring together. But, yeah, the first match they had in the tournament is considered to be a very, very good match. And it's also widely available online.
Nice. So, finals here, it's Jushin Thunder Liger versus Black Tiger 2. It's June 12th, 1996. We're at the Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium in Osaka, Japan. So what do you think about this match?
Well, before we get into it, just a brief background.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously,
Background on Black Tiger.
So, Black Tiger as a character, there have been many iterations of Black Tiger. The idea of what Black Tiger is the arch evil nemesis of Tiger Mask. And, you know, the original Tiger Mask was Satoru Sayama, and they needed to create an evil character to kind of contrast from him. So they brought in Mark Rollerball Rocco from England, and he played the first incarnation of Black Tiger. And even after Sayama left and they ended up bringing in Mizawa in All Japan to be the second Tiger Mask, Mark Rocco continued to play Black Tiger up into the 90s. But after he stopped portraying the Black Tiger gimmick, they needed to create a second one. And that's where they bring in Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero actually, well, obviously we all know, you know, anyone who's listening probably is very familiar with who Eddie Guerrero is. But, you know, up to this point, Eddie Guerrero hadn't really made it into the big times. He was still a big star in like AAA and in Mexico. He was from the famous Guerrero family, one of, if not one of, the most famous Mexican wrestling families of all time. And Eddie is arguably the greatest wrestler of that clan of wrestlers. By the time 1995 comes around, though, he's already performing. He's had exposure in WCW. He's wrestling regularly in ECW on a national stage. Actually, we're in 1996, aren't we?
Yeah.
So he's already had his run in ECW that launched him to fame to where he was signed by WCW. So, you know, he's already, wrestling on national television in the States as Eddie Guerrero for WCW. He had wrestled previous tournaments under his name. So he'd done some of the top of the Super Junior tournaments under the name Eddie Guerrero. But then once he donned the mask and the gimmick, of Black Tiger, kind of changed his trajectory within the company. And the 1996 period of his run was probably the highest of the heights for his run as Black Tiger.
Yeah, and from what I understand, so like you mentioned, Black Tiger 1 was kind of made to be the nemesis of Tiger Mask 1, but for Black Tiger 2, they wanted him to kind of be the nemesis for Jushin Thunder Liger.
That may be the case, but keep in mind there was a Tiger Mask 3 who wrestled in New Japan from 1992 until 1994, and I do think that Black Tiger 2 was designed to be the nemesis of Tiger Mask 3. Tiger Mask 3 being Koji Kanemoto.
Mm. And so,
but I think once they unmasked Tiger Mask and Eddie still continued to thrive, I think they did need to kind of, because the whole reason that they unmasked Koji Kanemoto to begin with was because there was no need for Tiger Mask in New Japan. They had Liger.
Right.
And so I do think they kind of took that energy and put it more towards Liger.
Nice. So that's who Black Tiger is facing here. He's facing Liger. So yeah, what do you think about this matchup?
I've looked at your notes here. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not as high in this match as you are, but
Really?
No, absolutely not. But I still think the match is really, really, really good. The one thought I just kept having the entire time was that this might be the match that has the most big fight feel up to this point in Super Junior's history. Like, there's definitely been great moments that we've reviewed already, but like on this night, the crowd was just so into Liger and Tiger and Black Tiger, and every interaction between them was like, Eddie is on the same level as Liger.
Yeah.
Anybody who had fought Liger before this had to like basically in the Super Juniors finals had to like jump him and use nefarious means to beat him and like try to draw his ire and like cheat him and things like that. Black Tiger didn't have to do that. Black Tiger obviously had heat with him, but like Black Tiger was hold for hold, move for move, counter for counter, like catch as catch can. Like he was portrayed to be on the same level as Jushin Thunder Liger, and no one else in these finals matches that we've reviewed up at this point had really been portrayed to be on that same level yet.
Yeah. And so where were you star rating wise on this then?
Ultimately, I'm not that far off from you. Probably like 4.25, maybe even 4. It was good. I expected a little bit more, but the last half of the match is really good. Obviously.
Yeah. So for me, I'm at 4.5 on it. I don't know. I just really enjoyed this match, and throughout the match, Liger is kind of working over Tiger 2's leg, Black Tiger's leg, to kind of slow him down, probably slow down that springboard offense, doing a lot of leg attacks, locking in the Romero special and kind of trying to slow him down, and a lot of grappling towards the beginning. We've seen in early matches Liger going to that Kimura. He used that here towards the beginning in the grappling part here.
Eddie's selling is really great in this match.
Yeah. And Liger's, the Shoteis, man. The Shoteis were so nasty.
Yeah.
In this time period here. I mean, they're still effective when he was, in the last couple of years, but I feel during this time period, he was really laying in those Shoteis here. I think kind of started picking up for me a little bit when they go out to the outside and, Tiger slams Liger on the cement and then goes to the top and it's this big, crazy dive. So he opens up the guardrails, and that's where he slams Liger on the cement, and then he goes on top and does a dive from the ring to kind of where Liger was in that crowd area where he opened up the guardrails. It's a big, crazy dive. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Up to that point, like, this really hadn't been too much of a high-flying match, and then once he goes to the top and hits that senton to the outside, which we've seen him hit in almost every single match in these finals, that was really awesome. Now, keep in mind, Liger in August of this year is going to be undergoing brain tumor surgery and kind of have to change his entire in-ring style from that point going forward. So this is like one of the last big tournament performances of Liger's career, and he really did show out on this night.
Yeah. Well, that spot I was talking about from Eddie's splash or Eddie's dive.
Okay, because Liger hits a senton on this one. I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's I think a little bit after that. Liger sits up and does his senton dive that he's been doing in all these matches, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
And so towards the end of the match here, Liger hits Eddie with a running Tiger Bomb for a near fall. He goes for a Tornado DDT. Eddie reverses it, hits a Brain Buster, and he falls up with a Crucifix Bomb for a near fall. He goes for a Superplex. Liger reverses on the way down for a pin. Liger goes up top, and he hits a diving attack, and he locks in an armbar. Eddie gets to the ropes. Liger puts Eddie on the top rope. Eddie fights out, puts Liger on the top rope, and hits a Super Brain Buster for the win.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess the end here was really awesome because it really started to kind of get into sometimes people complain about like the WWE house styles, how like every big match has big move, kick out, big move, kick out, big move, kick out, and people don't really like that. But like in New Japan, that was kind of a rare thing at this point in time. So like to kind of see like these finals where these guys are hitting like Splash Mountain Bombs, Liger Bombs, big Hurricane Ranas, DDTs, Tornado DDTs, everything. And they're just like basically trying to throw everything at one another and each guy's kicking out. It's kind of awesome because, when a company isn't exercising that same style for every match, then when they do it, in the rare occasion, it makes it more impactful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of matches where people, I think what we've seen a lot of, and this is what I was alluding to earlier when I mentioned that these guys seem like they're on the same level. We've seen a lot of matches where one guy is trying desperately at the end to put the other guy away and he just can't. But in this match, right down to the very end, both guys are hitting each other with bombs and they're both kicking out, and it's kind of fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then Eddie used that super brainbuster that Liger used in previous Super Juniors to get a win.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was kind of surprised that was it. He also hit him with people never give Eddie. I know Liger has an awesome brainbuster, but I think Eddie's always had like one of the best brainbusters of all time.
Yeah, it was smooth.
Like his brainbuster is up there with guys like Hashimoto and like Austin Aries. Like he's incredible. The one knock I have in this match is just the early legwork was kind of boring to me, and didn't really play much into the second half of the match, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and that was
even the beginning was kind of weird. So like he started working on the legs, and then he just kind of abandoned it pretty early. Like he did the Romero special, did some stomps on the legs, and after that it was pretty much it. Like he's doing a normal like tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. He's going to abdominal stretches. He's kind of doing all this other stuff. Starts working on the arms with the Kimura, and then kind of abandons the leg.
Yeah, and that was why I was a little low on this. Like the second half of the match, once it kicks into gear, it's very fantastic. But the early work wasn't bad. But when I consider the fact that it's Liger and Tiger, and what I know that they're capable of, and I've seen them, produce, this was just kind of a little beneath the level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But overall, still incredible. I mean, 4 4 stars, 4 1/4. That's nothing to sneeze at, especially in 1996.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was really high on this one by the time I watched. I was 4.5 on it.
And maybe you're right. Maybe I'm incorrect here. I mean, that's it's subjective, but it's a really good match.
Yeah, we're pretty much in the same kind of range though. So yeah, really good match. Eddie and Liger. Afterwards, Eddie would go on to unsuccessfully challenge the great Sasuke for the Junior Championship on June 17th, 1996. There's lots of notes here in the Observer from Dave. I'm not going to read through all of it, just some of the stuff that
I do think Eddie Guerrero went on to win the title that year, though. In 1996. Let me not that title challenge, but I'm pretty sure as Black Tiger. Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it looks like he did lose. I'm incorrect. My bad.
No worries. So some notes from Dave. So there's a lot of stuff on this year's tournament in some of the Observers, but just kind of pulling out some interesting stuff here. So Dave says, overall, the top of the Super Junior tournament didn't seem to garner as much interest or draw the crowds as in years past because of lack of depth as compared with past years. None of the newcomers, Viano 4, Fran Schumann, Jerry Lynn, or Emilio Charles Jr. were pushed as threats for the top guys. And while the top guys are 5 or 6 of the top 20 wrestlers in the world, they have no new feuds or storylines and have been facing each other in every tournament for the past few years. In addition, Koji Kanemoto, who would have added depth to the tournament, was injured and missed the entire tournament, with Charles and Lynn, broken shoulder and shoulder separation respectively, were knocked out of action during the tour, leading to a lot of forfeit wins. Dave also goes on to say the tournament, which came off as something of a letdown this year due to numerous injuries, picked up in the final 2 days with what we've heard were excellent semifinals and a championship match. And he mentioned that they had a 6,650 sellout in Osaka with Tiger pinning Liger using the Brainbuster. Yeah,
and I like what he said here, that it's Tiger's biggest win, career win in Japan and probably anywhere else for that matter. And he said the win made sense on several levels as it gave credibility to Tiger in the scheduled IWGP Junior title match on June 17th and in the future title matches as well as heats up a long-term program with him and Liger. So, I mean, in 1996, he's basically saying that this is the biggest win of Eddie Guerrero's career, anywhere, including AAA, including ECW, including WCW. Like, this was the biggest career win he'd had at that point.
Yeah, and I think, too, something we've seen with the previous tournaments where once Liger kind of got on top of the throne, he needed competition, he needed program because he was a top star and pretty much nobody they had was kind of reaching his level. And so creating this program here with Black Tiger and having Tiger beat him. I think Tiger beat him twice in the tournament earlier in the B block. And so having Tiger kind of be dominant over him sets up a new challenger and a new feud for Liger this year.
Well, they would have only faced once in the B block, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the first B block match, I think Tiger won. And then,
okay, because you said twice, and I was a little confused.
Yeah, I meant like their first matchup in the B block, and then this final match here.
Oh yeah, so overall beat him twice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely set things up for a nice little program there, and to kind of give some credibility to the junior division.
Nice. So let's go to the top of the Super Junior Final 1997, and this might be deja vu for some of you listeners because this was the recommended match of the week just a few weeks ago. But Jeremy, take us through it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I don't know, like this, I guess I had like new lenses on watching this match, and we'll get to the match in a second. But yeah, so 1997 Best of the Super Juniors. Once again, we have a 2-block tournament, 14-man tournament, 7-7 in each block, held from May 16th to June 5th. This and the following tournament in 1998 would utilize a different point system that involved only 1 point for a win and 0 points for a loss or a draw. We had guest natives included Gran Naniwa and Hanzo Nakajima.
Gran
Naniwa and Hanzo Nakajima from Michinoku Pro Wrestling, and we had Yoshihiro Tajiri from Big Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
So the final here was Kanemoto and Samurai, which was awarded 5 stars by Dave Meltzer. So in the A block at the bottom, we had Chavo Guerrero Jr. with 1 point, Doc Dean with 2 points, Dr. Wagner Jr. with 2 points, how you say his last name again? Ninawa? Niwa, 3 points, Takaiwa with 4 points, Liger with 4 points, and then Kanemoto on top of the block with 5 points. And then on the B block, we had Robbie Brookside, 1 point, Scorpio Jr. with 1 point, Tajiri with 3 points, Nakajima with 3 points, Chris Jericho with 4 points, Otani with 4 points, and El Samurai at the top of the block there with 5 points.
It's just crazy when you go back and see the actual competitors for these tournaments. They sound like dream tournaments.
Yeah, I mean,
literally.
I know he was saying in 96 that it wasn't as a lot of interest as previous tournaments, but pretty much every year for the most part, I'm like, man, these lineups are pretty stacked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's kind of crazy. So let's talk about this 1997 Top of the Super Juniors, Best of Super Juniors final here. So we've got Koji Kanemoto against El Samurai.
Yeah, and so June 5th, 1997, we're in the Nippon Budokan in Tokyo, Japan. And
big arena.
Yeah. And I know the first time I watched this match and I reviewed it, I think I was like 4 1/4, 4 stars. I was like, it was kind of slow at the beginning. I don't know what it was, but when I watched this match this weekend, bro, I freaking loved it. I fell in love with it. Maybe I got a better understanding of Kanemoto through this project and maybe just the junior style and El Samurai through this project, but I absolutely freaking love this thing.
Yeah, when I originally had recommended it, I was like, oh man, like this is going to be great because it is a different style than what you're used to seeing, but it's also like the best of the house style probably in 1997 for juniors in New Japan. So I was like, man. And the other thing too, well, before I get to that, so, the thing is I was like, man, this is a great recommend. Like Jeremy can really like kind of get a taste of what wrestling, New Japan was like in 97 and see it on the highest stage. And then you're like, that's pretty good, 4 1/4. I was like, all right, like that's cool. Like it's fine. Like I'm not going to judge you for that. Like, cause I could see why someone today might say that, but I was like, and remember when we were on that show, I was like, I don't know. I'm closer to like 4 3/4.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm not far off from giving it the full 5 snowflakes. Like that's how good the match is. But The one thing I think I noticed rewatching it is, and I've always known this, but doing this project, it is so glaringly obvious how different in tone and style this 1997 match is from everything that's happened before it.
Yeah.
And it's clearly an indication of how they're moving more towards the shoot-based style of wrestling. And obviously, I think the UWFI and to some extent the war invasions in New Japan, plus just what's going on in Japan at this point with like K1 and Pride and Pancrase and everything, and just MMA in general. The entire tone of junior wrestling is starting to change away from the classical Liger, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, sort of style, and it's moving more towards this more hard-hitting, more shoot-based oriented, and that may or may not be a good thing. Like in some cases, we're going to find out as we go along on this project. Some cases that's not it's not always a good thing. But in this match, it kind of freaking ruled.
Yeah, and I've just been falling in love with Koji Kanemoto because he's like the perfect mix of strong style, grappling style, and high flying. Like this guy is like hitting you with these hard chops, kicks, and strikes, and then he's jumping up and doing a moonsault or doing a corkscrew splash or corkscrew press.
Yeah, is that what he does? A corkscrew senton?
Yeah, corkscrew senton.
He does that all the time.
Yeah, and with ease, just bounces up on top rope, and it's like this guy was just like doing strikes. Like he's a strong style guy. Now he's flipping around like a Flippy Dude Jr. Like what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, now one thing I noticed with this match, the first time we reviewed it, I had mentioned how I loved the ground exchanges. And the second time I watched it, I'll tell you what, the early ground exchanges, once I paid even more attention, I don't really like them. Until I'll tell you the moment when this match kicks into full gear for me. The moment that they both slap each other. They're standing in the center of the ring, and like Koji slaps Samurai slaps him, and then they double slap each other, James Boyd spot, and then they fall back. And then from there, Samurai goes to the top rope and tries a double knee drop or like a King Kong knee drop off the top rope and then hurts his knee. And from that point forward, the story of Kanemoto attacking the leg kicks into full gear. But the first like 5 or 6 minutes of groundwork, it's actually not that good. Once the groundwork moves to, I'm attacking your leg, I'm going to flick you off, I'm going to slap you in the face, and there's nothing you can do about it, that's when the match really picks up for me.
Yeah, and so Samurai's having to fight back here and trying to fight back off the leg that Koji just keeps attacking, keeps working on throughout the match. And here, like we were mentioning in the previous matches with the competitors being on the outside, Liger's on the outside here, and he's really cheering and coaching for El Samurai here, and getting pissed off when Koji's like ripping Samurai's mask and yelling at the referee. Like he's really involved in the matchup here and is really invested in this final.
Yeah, and obviously we've kind of touched base on like the history of Liger and Samurai. They had obviously a very famous Super Junior final in 1992 where Samurai's mask was almost ripped off. And it's kind of funny how history sort of repeats itself in this match as Kanemoto rips the mask and almost rips it entirely off. And he's fighting like basically with his whole face exposed, which is exactly what happened in the 1992 match.
Right. The mask gets ripped off. The crowd's pissed. Liger's pissed. They're booing Kanemoto. And Koji hits Poison Rana from the top, which was just freaking incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know if I ever seen anyone do a Poison Rana in general that I can remember around that time. And then he did it off the top rope, and I'm just like, I remember I just can't remember too many times in the 90s that ever happened, unless like there's some, I don't know, some Michinoku Pro or some like Toryumon that I don't know about where they're doing it or something, or I don't know, some lucha, but I never seen that.
Yeah, he hit it so smooth. And the funny thing is, after he hit that Poison Rana, the crowd starts chanting loudly for El Samurai.
Yeah.
Like, you would think that Poison Rana, they'd probably start chanting for Koji, but yeah, he hits the Poison Rana, and the crowd's starting to get even more behind El Samurai.
It's because Kanemoto was such a dick the entire match. Like, every time he'd put a leg lock or an ankle hold or figure four on, he's giving this guy the finger, slapping him in the face, and just doing little things to get under his skin. One moment I really love, Samurai starting to mount a comeback, right? Mm-hmm. And his leg's been attacked. He's mounting a comeback, and he's kicking Kanemoto in the face, fucking hard, mind you. And then he puts him in a tree of woe, so he has him in the corner, and he baseball slides with his bad foot into Kanemoto's face one time, and then he tries to do it a second time, or maybe it's the third time, I can't remember, but Kanemoto grabs the ankle and puts him in a freaking ankle lock from there. And I'm like, oh, this is next level shit right here.
Yeah, I love that spot, because what happened was, earlier in the match, Koji had Samurai in a tree of woe.
Yes.
And he was like face washing him and choking him with his foot. So then El Samurai was trying to get revenge. So he did the baseball slide, and then he started choking him with the foot. And that's when Koji grabbed the foot into the ankle lock.
And then, Samurai gets to the ropes in that moment, but Kanemoto just keeps holding on to it a lot longer. And he's like, most guys, when people get to the ropes, they'll hold on to it, but they're not like cranking it. He gets to the ropes and he starts cranking it even way, way, way harder. And he's like, I've got till 4. And that's why the crowd's not behind him, because this guy, he's being a dick. And it's kind of incredible. Like, this is by far even as heated as, say, like Liger Samurai was, this is the most heated and intense Super Junior final that we've reviewed up to this point.
Yeah, there was so much heat here in this match. And so, yeah, after the Poison Rana, Koji, he goes for a moonsault, but Samurai gets the knees up. And this is Samurai's kind of little comeback here. He hits 2 jackknife power bombs, gets an arm bar. Koji fights the rope. Samurai goes up to the top, but Koji meets him up there and gives him this awesome super exploder fall away slam / Spanish fly looking thing. It was awesome. Hits him with a quick scoop slam. Hits a moonsault. But Koji here, to show what kind of a dick he is, he doesn't go for the cover. Instead, he hits a tiger suplex, which only gets a near fall. Then he goes for his corkscrew senton. Samurai moves. Samurai hits the scorpion death drop. Then this like spin out scorpion death drop slam thing, followed by another scorpion death drop for the win.
But keep in mind, the first one was like a scorpion death drop from the top rope.
That's right, yeah, super scorpion, yeah.
And here's the awesome thing, what I loved about this, and we haven't seen this too much in any of these Super Junior matches either. This was like a finishing sequence of move after move after move. In a lot of the matches, what we've seen is guys either sneaking a win or hitting a big maneuver. You know what I mean?
Right.
But this was different. This was like one of those Will Ospreay, like, I'm going to hit you with the Nas Cutter. I'm going to hit you with the
hidden blade.
With a hidden blade. Now I'm going to hit you with a freaking, whatever. Like, that's what this was the 1997 version of that. Like, he was like, all right, super scorpion. That probably would do it. Heck nah. I'm going to hit you with, this spin out, whatever this. I don't even know what the fuck that was.
He picked him up like he was going to do a fall away like scorpion death drop, and then he like spinned him out. Yeah, I don't know what to call that.
It kind of reminded me of like what's Hiromu do? Not the
dynamite plunger?
Yeah, it reminds me of the dynamite plunger a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, but yeah. And it's just kind of awesome because I couldn't tell if Samurai is like hitting him with these 3 moves because he thinks I need to do this to put him away, or if he's like, I need to do this to prove a point and get revenge because this guy's been, basically fucking me up the whole match. And the other cool thing too is just like, and this is what I think is so smart about this match. It's not just the cool moves. It's the leg work. I know like a lot of people complain about leg work, but when it's done right, it's important and it's incredible. And like Kanemoto fucked this guy's leg up so bad that every time Samurai is mounting a comeback, Kanemoto will do a very simple leg move. He'll do an ankle lock, and the crowd is like, whoa! And they start freaking out because it's believable at this point that this guy is maybe done. And then when he gets to the ropes, it means something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just the move. Like to have that effectively done, it's not just the move and getting to the ropes and the guy selling. It's the work that was done previously so that it's believable that that's the moment. And they have like 3 or 4 moments like that to where you're like, oh shit, Samurai is fucked. And when he overcomes the odds, that's what makes this match so great, is that he overcame this onslaught from Kanemoto, from these leg kicks and from the submission holds that he put on him. It's like, how does this dude even win?
Yeah. Wait, awesome match. I bumped my rating up to 5. I went the full 5. Oh, like, yeah.
I'm still 4 3/4 on the match, but I mean, that's 4 3/4, and I still think it's one of the greatest Super Junior finals of all time.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, man. Like, it was like I watched this match for the first time. Like, it was like a whole new experience this time around. I don't know what, I guess because I have a better understanding of these guys, and I'm doing more background research on the tournament and how they got here and all this stuff. But yeah.
Well, I think part of it too is like I've always found this to be the case for me when I watch retro wrestling. If I only watched, hypothetically, if I only watched top end wrestling today, and not only is top end wrestling today more athletic, but it has its own quirks and styles. And then I go back and I watch, say, 1970s, world of sport. I'm going to be like, I don't even know. It's not even though they're both wrestling, they're not even the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
You kind of have to judge. Like, that's why I think when Meltzer says you have to judge something in its own time, that is the case. Like, to have a true understanding, like, things can be great. Like, and I'll just say this, like, I think there are still 5-star matches from the 80s that are every bit as good as the wrestling today, but they're just different. Because the styles of wrestling in different eras and different places and regions are completely different from what we see today. And I think once you watch more of that, you can kind of get more of a understanding and appreciation of it, and you kind of compare it. Like, obviously, if you contrast this match to, say, like Okada Omega today, it's not on the same level, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's still great for its own reasons. And once you kind of compare it to everything else that you were seeing from that era, you're like, oh wow, this is something truly special.
Yeah. So aftermath here. So El Samurai, he goes on to defeat Liger for the Junior Championship on July 6th. Then some notes here from the Observer. Dave says the biggest surprise of the 1997 version of the New Japan Top of the Super Juniors tournament is that the perennial finalist Jushin Liger won't be in the championship match on 6-5 at Tokyo Budokan Hall. Instead, it's guaranteed there will be a first-time winner of the tournament when Kanemoto faces El Samurai. Also on the show finals on top of the Super Junior tournament, where El Samurai pinned Koji Kanemoto 23-51. Kanemoto unmasked Samurai at 17 minutes, and Samurai wrestled the remainder of the match with his face totally exposed. He won after hitting 3 reverse DDTs to capture his first ever junior tournament championship.
Nice.
So then that's going to take us to Best of the Super Juniors 1998, the last tournament that we'll be reviewing on this week's show. So 1998, once again, we have a 2-block tournament here, this time with 12 men, so 6 in each block. We're going from May 16th to June 3rd this year. And like the previous year, it's using the simpler point system, which is 1 point for a win and 0 for a loss or a draw. So in the A block at the bottom here, we had Fukuda with 1 point, Takaiwa with 2 points, Shinjiro Otani with 2 points, El Samurai with 3 points, Liger with 3 points, and Dr. Wagner Jr. with 4 points. And in the B block, we had Yasuroka with 1 point, Hayato with 2 points, El Felino with 2 points, Kendo Kashin with 3 points, Shiryu with 3 points, and then Koji Kanemoto with 4 points. So which brings us to the final on June 3rd, 1998, Osaka Municipal Central Gymnasium in Osaka, Japan, with Dr. Wagner Jr. versus Koji Kanemoto.
Yeah. So, a background on both of these competitors. So we talked about Kanemoto in the 1997 match, but we actually haven't even done a background on him. So, Kanemoto started with the New Japan Dojo in the late 80s and debuted in late 1990. He was a judo practitioner all throughout high school and even won championships as a professional before being recruited by the dojo. In 1992, he made his debut as the third incarnation of Tiger Mask. So he was the successor to Mitsuharu Misawa. And he continued with that character until early 1994, where they had a famous mask versus mask match between him and Jushin Liger at Battlefield. I believe it was in the Tokyo Dome. And he lost the match, obviously, and had to unmask and started wrestling under his own name. And he kind of left the high-flying version of his moveset at that point and started moving more into a shoot-style based offense. He was trained in that art from Kazu Yamazaki, who'd also been in some of the early top of the Super Junior tournaments here. So, he got really popular because he kind of combined what Jeremy talked about, scientific wrestling with hard strikes and judo, along with mixing in some of his earlier high flying stuff from the Tiger Mask. And he's kind of like one of the most well-rounded juniors of the 90s. He was the first man to ever defend the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title in the United States. He did that against Alex Wright on Starrcade in 1995. He also is one of the only people to have ever defeated Kazushi Sakuraba in a shoot-style wrestling match. And, yeah, he has plenty of accolades all throughout his time in New Japan going into the 2000s. He's going to be a major player and a major mainstay for New Japan Pro Wrestling leading into all the way to like the 2010s and everything like that. So Kanemoto is a big figure, but we're still like in the infancy stages of his, junior title runs. And at this point, he's been a dual UWA, which is the Mexican partner to New Japan at that point in time. At one point, I think they mentioned a year or two prior, he was the dual UWA light heavyweight as well as IWGP junior heavyweight title holder, which is kind of crazy. With that being the case, the UWA, that's a great time to talk about Dr. Wagner Jr. So Dr. Wagner Jr. is from a very famous Lucha Libre family. As you know, we talked about that with Eddie Guerrero. It kind of seems to be like once a family goes into the wrestling business over there, it kind of becomes a way of life for them.
Yeah.
But Dr. Wagner Jr. Has been wrestling since like the mid to early 80s. He made his debut. He'd already been wrestling, but he made his debut under the Dr. Wagner Jr. name in 1987, and he started wrestling for the UWA. At the time, the two biggest companies, AAA didn't, for those of you that don't know, they didn't start until 1993. So the two big players in Mexico at this time were EMLL, which would become CMLL, and the Universal Wrestling Association, which was like UWA. And UWA was like headlined by such famous wrestlers as like El Canek, Fishman, guys like that. And Dr. Wagner Jr. became a major star over there. He won their UWA World Junior Heavyweight title. And throughout his career, he'd be one of the most successful Lucha Libre personalities. He won almost every title in AAA, including their Mega Championship. He went to CMLL and won almost every title there, including their World Light Heavyweight title, which is like their main title. He's also been an NWA World Light Heavyweight champion. He's also been a IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag champion. So, I mean, he's a very, very, very famous Lucha Libre star. But what year are we in, 1998?
Yep.
So in 1998, at that point, UWA wasn't doing so hot. AAA was around. They were kind of taking over. So CMLL and UWA were kind of like forming a partnership. And I think eventually CMLL was going to take over UWA. And Wagner had been wrestling in Japan going back to like 88, but he really hadn't gotten any big like pushes or big runs or anything like that. He did participate in the previous year's Super Juniors with some limited success. And then suddenly in 1998, he's in the finals of the tournament, which kind of comes from out of nowhere. So tons of success in Mexico, but this is the biggest stage he's ever been on when it comes to Japanese wrestling.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like the first thing I noticed with Wagner here, like he does not look like a junior.
He's not a junior. Like literally, when the first thing I thought when I watched this, I was like, you know what's funny? He actually wrestles under the name Ray Wagner now because he lost his mask in 2017.
Yeah, I remember hearing
to
about
Psycho
that.
Clown.
Yeah,
and now he's King Wagner, but he looks more like a junior now. He's in better shape in 2020 than he was in 1998. Swear to God.
Yeah, dude. I saw this. I was like, now I see why Josh was always talking about Ishii being in the junior division. Because he's built like almost like Wagner. So obviously Wagner has a little bit of a better like body build, but like Wagner is not a freaking junior. I was like, the IWGP need to check the scales here. Like something was up here. Like this guy was not a junior.
There was a Mexican benefactor that was paying off the IWGP to get this man, you know, in positive standings, because there's no way. I think their weight limit's 220. I'm pretty sure. And there's no way Dr. Wagner Jr. was 220.
Nah, dude, that man.
No way.
Yeah, dude. Guy was huge. And I liked his little like CMLL NWO shirt that he had.
Oh, yeah, that shirt was. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want to remember to ask Jeremy, like, yo, how can we get those CMLL shirts? Like, those shirts are hard.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has selling any of those, but
yo, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I found that was funny.
We should make a Keepin' It Strong Style shirt that's NWO.
We should. That'd be cool.
That should be our next design. We'll sell it on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Let's do it. All
but
right.
yeah, this is a match that I enjoyed a lot, but I wasn't sure. I see your notes now, and I see that you really love this match, but I wasn't watching it. I was like, dude, I don't know what Jeremy's going to think of this match.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I went 4.75 on this thing. I thought it was a great back and forth match here, and very interesting. You know, Koji Kanemoto kind of coming off the last final where he was kind of like the dickhead heel, and here he was almost like the baby face, kind of defending Japan here against a foreigner in Dr. Wagner Jr.
Yeah. Am I correct in saying this is the longest Super Junior final of all time up to that point?
I believe so, yeah.
It felt like it was. It was pretty long. I think it was like 25, 26 minutes, something like that, which is pretty lengthy for them. And, dude, Wagner Jr. kicked the shit out of Koji Kanemoto. I'm talking bad, bro.
Got all simpy on this man.
Dude, not only was he using his size to, like, do power moves and slam this dude, but he was also using his like unorthodox like Mexican submission Yaveo style like holds, and just tying this dude up in knots like Zack Sabre style, bro. Like every time like Koji tried to get something, and you know what? That's what I want. That was the one point when I was watching this. I wanted to remember to mention this. This seemed to be the stark contrast for most of the match between Mexican style wrestling and Japanese style wrestling. Now I know it's kind of lazy to like draw that comparison anytime you see like a luchador against like, you know, a strong style practitioner. But the reason I mention that is because it reminds me of a lot of the famous matches that like when Connect would come over and wrestle in New Japan, or like when Mil Mascaras would go to All Japan and fight some of their guys. There was always this kind of like stark contrast to the type of offense and the type of style that the guys would practice. And you kind of saw that really exemplified here. Like every time Kanemoto tried to get going, it was hard strikes. It was high flying. It was like very stiff. And then with Wagner, it was, you know, a lot of like fluid movement, a lot of like rolling into like various submissions, and like even though like he was integrating some of the strikes and stuff, it was power moves, it was high flying, it was just like a tale where you could see these two wrestling styles in very stark contrast to one another.
Yeah, and we talked about Koji Kanemoto kind of being all encompassing with the strong style and the high flying. For me, one thing I loved, it seemed like he was kind of trying to do a little bit of lucha in the beginning. There was a spot where Wagner has him down the test of strength, like pin position thing.
Oh yeah, the monkey flip.
Yeah, he popped as a monkey flip, and Wagner just looked shook after that. He's like, "Where this guy learned to do this lucha monkey flip from?"
The thing that was, there were some things I do want to criticize about the match, though.
Okay.
I think Kanemoto was very fantastic as the underdog babyface because he for a good portion of the match he plays the face in peril almost like perfectly. But every time he would start firing back up, I don't know if it was because he was on like fighting from underneath the whole time. When he would start to get his hope spots, he was fucking stuff up like real bad. There was even one point where he dropped himself on his head on accident. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, so he had some botches. They didn't ruin the match for me or anything, but there was that. Like, there were like 3 or 4 times where he had some botches where he kind of messed things up. And then Wagner Jr.'s, like him being on top so heavy, it was the story of the match. But it got to a point where like he keeps hitting these huge finishers on Kanemoto. Kanemoto keeps kicking out, and it started going into the realm of parody a little bit for me towards the end because it was like 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. It was like a lot, and Kanemoto just kept kicking out, and I think that's a great story. But towards the end, I was like, man, if Kanemoto doesn't hit him with something real big at the end, I'm not going to believe this. And then he hits him with like a tiger suplex. And I was like, I don't know, man. I still really like the match a lot. I'm still like, these are just my criticisms. I'm still like 4.5 on it. I think it's one of the best Super Juniors up to that point for the finals. But those were the things that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, and something else I've noticed too was with the kind of strike exchanges, like Koji always kind of won whenever they had like strike or chop exchanges. He was always kind of getting the better of Wagner there, and then Wagner would have to like take him down and put him in some submission. There was one point where he locked like this deep half crab, and he transitioned it into a lion tamer, which is pretty cool.
It was awesome.
And yeah, Koji was fighting back, hit his signature belly to belly suplex, and yeah, it's kind of a tale of like Kanemoto's trying to suplex him and chop this guy. Wagner's using, like you mentioned, his Yubeo, like lucha submissions. Put him on a lot of submissions throughout this match. We see a La Magistral cradle for near fall at one point. There's a spot where Wagner, he scoops on him, he hits this huge body splash, like Jimmy Snuka style, like just straight up.
He hits him as a heavyweight, he hits him with the top rope splash onto a junior.
Yeah.
Let's just say what it was.
Literally squashing this man. Like,
what about the, he, at one point he put Kanemoto in a reverse Boston Crab, the pendulum Boston Crab.
Yeah.
And he keeps banging that dude's head on the freaking mat. And I was like, my God.
So yeah, coming down towards the end of the match here. So Koji, he's trying for that tiger suplex, but he can't get it. He had a spin kick to the back of Wagner's head. It goes for a roll up for the near fall. Tries to get the moonsault. Wagner moves and hits this nasty Michinoku driver.
That Michinoku driver is like one of the nastiest ones I've ever seen. And that's when I was like, okay, that should be it. And then he gets his foot on the rope.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can believe that.
So it was a 3 count, but he got his foot on the rope before the 3. And the ref had to explain to Wagner, like, no, he got his foot on the rope first. And so Koji kind of rolls to the outside. He's trying to recover. Liger and everybody's like cheering him on.
He almost gets counted out. Like that's how devastating the Michinoku driver is, which I thought was great. Was like he rolls out, but like he can't get back in, and it's like, oh, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then he gets back in the ring, and Wagner hits him with another Michinoku driver,
and it's just as good as the first one.
Yes,
literally
kills this man.
And then I was like, okay, well I knew the outcome, but I was like, that probably should have been it. Like that's how bad this was.
Yeah, but he kicks out fighting spirit. And then Wagner goes for a pop-up power bomb. Koji counters with a Rana, but Wagner counters to a cover of his own. No.
That he tries to counter with the Rana, and that's where he spikes himself on the head.
Yeah.
He was supposed to. He spikes himself in the head, and then Wagner doesn't miss a beat, and then he hits him with a freaking bonsai drop.
Yeah.
He hits him with the bonsai drop, and I was like, oh, that look, and he hits him hard too, and I was like, oh shit, it's over.
So then Wagner goes for a diving headbutt. Koji moves. Koji gets a roll-up Rana for 2. Koji starts kicking Wagner. The scoop slam followed by the moonsault, and then he picks Wagner up, hits the tiger suplex, 1, 2, 3. Koji Kanemoto wins Best of Super Juniors 98.
The other thing too is like after he pinned Wagner kind of popped up almost right away, like I guess to protect his heat or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? He's like, what happened? He beat me? What? Are you kidding me? So it was like Koji beat him clean, but it was like Wagner was still strong at the end.
Right. Well, of course,
but
he's a heavyweight.
Yeah. But yeah, this match was really. I mean, it was really. I think it's one of the most under. I don't ever hear anyone talk about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I most of the junior matches we've just discussed that are really good, I've heard about. I never hear anyone talk about this. I do know that Dave Meltzer gave it 4 3/4 at the time, and I can totally see why. But I never see anybody talk about this match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hear people talking about Wagner in Japan at all.
No, not really. I mean, I knew that he worked in New Japan, but like this is, I mean, until someone shows me something better, this is the best match I ever seen of him in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's the star of this match. Let's not get anything twisted about this. As great as Kanemoto is, and Kanemoto was great, in the previous match. This is the Dr. Wagner Jr. show.
Yeah.
Like he's the star of this match. Kanemoto is great with his selling and everything, but like it's all about the offense. Kanemoto is just fucking this guy up. Like it kind of reminds me of like Flair or Vader from Starrcade '93 a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Or even it kind of reminds me also about like Bryan Danielson against like Morishima.
Yeah.
Like you've got. I think it's one of the few times we're going to see like a giant monster heel in the Super Junior tournament. or like it kind of also reminds me of like Joe and AJ.
Yeah.
So it had those kind of vibes for me.
So after this win here, Koji has an unsuccessful challenge to Liger on July 15th, as well as another unsuccessful match on January 4th, 1999, before finally beating Liger for the title on March 17th, 1999.
Why does this dude just keep getting rematch after rematch after rematch? What the fuck? Like, you lost, dude.
Gotta keep trying.
So from the Observer notes, Koji Kanemoto beats Dr. Wagner Jr. 26 minutes, 17 seconds with the Tiger Suplex to capture the 1998 version of Best of the Super Junior Tournament before a sellout crowd of 8,000 at Osaka Cho Gymnasium. It was a surprising final of the 3-week tournament, pitting a wrestler who had been on the back burner for most of the year when the junior heavyweight focus had been on Shinjiro Otani, Jushin Liger, and Kendo Kashin, and a wrestler from Mexico who had never received a serious push up to that point with New Japan. From the reports we received, it was a fantastic match, with Wagner really getting over and being created as a new title contender in the junior heavyweight division. Yeah, right. Before doing the job at the end. It was a rare opportunity for junior heavyweights to be able to work at the main event in a singles match, even above the IWGP Tag Team Tournament. The win sets Kanemoto up for a shot at Jushin Liger's title on July 15th in Sapporo. Tournament was widely considered the least interesting due to the lack of top international heavyweight stars that have been regularly featured, such as Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and probably meant that it did the least at the box office overall, perhaps in its history. However, it did accomplish a purpose in getting Wagner over as a legitimate star, putting focus on Kanemoto, and creating a new Japanese star in Kaz Hayashi, who lost to Kanemoto in the match to determine who would go to the finals. And that is pretty much it on these notes, huh?
Yeah, then that's just kind of talking about that last paragraph, just talking about kind of the post-match there a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff here. And do you have any final thoughts on this 1998 Super Junior match?
Overall, really enjoy the match. Like I said, I was 4.75 on it. Great story of Wagner just kind of being this, bigger, bruising kind of heel, using the submissions and a little bit of high flying to kind of get control of Koji. Koji having to fight back and be the underdog, the baby face, and coming back.
Yeah, I think obviously we saw some really great stuff on the first week of the Final Countdown. 88 to 94. There's everything there is very high quality, but these 4 matches that we reviewed here, even though I wasn't as high in the 95, when you combine 96, 97, 98, I think we're talking about an even better second week of match reviews.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
So awesome. And I will say this though, I have a strong feeling that because Kendo Kashin is in that 1999 final, I haven't seen it yet. I bet you if we reviewed that, we might not be talking about this being overall better than the first week.
There's a reason why we can't find that match.
I'm just saying.
All right.
That's going to do it for the second week of the Final Countdown.
Yeah, week 2 in the books. So one last
dude,
thing.
I'm loving this stuff.
Yeah, dude, I'm really enjoying this, man. I'm loving kind of going back and learning more about these guys and watching some of these classics.
Also, if you guys are listening along, I highly encourage you to watch these matches as well, and then get back to us and dialogue with us about it, because we want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, if you need help finding the matches, hit us up and we'll help you out there. But last thing here, recommended match of the week. So first of all, did you get a chance to watch my recommendation of Omega and Balor?
I did, and was I supposed to love this match?
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like 5-star fair or anything, but I thought it was a pretty good match.
Oh, okay. I think that this is an extremely interesting historical match, but I don't think it's a very good match. I'm like 3.5, and I'm being a little generous when I say that, as far as like match ratings. I thought it was good. I mean, it was fine. It was definitely interesting to kind of see these two guys at a different time in their careers face off with one another. And they did some stuff that was like pretty cool, but overall the match itself was kind of, I would call it lower tier, to be honest with you. Like, I expected a lot more, knowing where these two guys were in their career, and also having seen the great Apollo 55 Apollo Go-Go matches against the Golden Lovers. Those are some of the best junior tag title matches ever. So I was really expecting a lot more, but I'm not like mad that I watched it. I think it's interesting to kind of see where these two guys were, both being like future leaders of the Bullet Club, and what they would mean to the wrestling industry long term. It's still really, really, really interesting, but I'm like 3.5 on it, honestly.
Yeah, I think I was like 3.5, 3.75 is what I was kind of on it.
I can't go 3.75 on that.
All right, so what's the recommended match for this week?
Okay, you know what? I had a few different matches in my mind. I am going to recommend to you, let me see here, because I want to give you the right date. The guy that used to, okay, I've got his name. Okay. April 1st, 1982. Tiger Mask. This Tiger Mask one versus Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright is the father of Alex Wright from WCW fame. Stephen Wright wrestled all over Europe under the name Bull Blitzer, and very, very rarely under his name Stephen Wright. There's very little tape on him, and I just want to say this is one of the it's one of the most shocking junior matches of the 1980s in New Japan.
And it's on World?
It's on World.
Nice.
It's like 20 minutes, and you're about to see someone like fucking just outclass Satoru Sayama in 1982.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
It's pretty cool.
That's the recommended match of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we will be back with all latest news and another final countdown segment. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you check us out on social media. The show is at KI Strong Style. You can also follow us at Social Suplex. I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. We are facebook.com/Social Suplex and facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can also email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Also check out our Discord server, Social Suplex. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. On Sundays, we have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. On Wednesdays, we have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. Every other Wednesday, our podcast dedicated to independent wrestling. Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryan. On Fridays, we have Get in the Ring with Danny and Beast Mike. And on Saturdays, we have All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr., Amy, O, and Tiffany. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. We will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Help us find these matches.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.